Chapter 1996. A well-built big man angrily harumphed and flew down from the viewing platform as he said loudly, "I'll see just how strong you are." Zhao Fu smirked and gave a condescending smile as he stretched out a hand and hooked it, saying, "Come at me then." The big man looked furious and a massive aura exploded out from his body. His body grew by 3 meters and his muscles bulged, giving off a terrifying power. This big man was called Strength God and had unimaginable power. The residents did not say anything and continued to watch, waiting for the battle between the two of them. They were not sure what would happen next. However, whether it was Strength God defeating Zhao Fu or Zhao Fu defeating Strength God, they all looked forward to it. The big man looked at Zhao Fu. He had seen how powerful Zhao Fu was, so he started to use his full strength. His body gave off a formless aura flame that seemed to be able to destroy everything, making him look like a humanoid beast. Bang! The big man made a running motion and stomped on the ground, causing it to crack. His body shot out and arrived before Zhao Fu in an instant. Arg! The big man roared as he gripped his fist and gave off terrifying power as he slammed it down towards Zhao Fu, causing the air to explode and creating an intense gale. Zhao Fu leapt backwards and avoided the big man's fist. Bang! The fist ferociously slammed into the ground, resulting in a massive explosion. A formless shockwave rippled out, causing the ground to crack and rocks to fly everywhere as a 10 or so meter wide crater appeared. Zhao Fu was completely fine and stood 20 meters away, giving a faint condescending smile as he looked at the big man. This made the big man feel incredibly furious, and he gave off a ferocious aura as he charged at Zhao Fu. After coming before Zhao Fu, the big man punched towards Zhao Fu, bringing with it a terrifying power that seemed to be able to shatter mountains. Zhao Fu dodged to the side and easily avoided this attack. The big man turned and kicked out, causing the air to explode as a formless energy kicked towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, which gave off an intense black light and formed a circular dragon inscription shield. Bang! The force smashed into the defensive barrier, causing a loud sound to ring out. A strong wind spread out, but the black dragon-patterned light shield was completely unharmed. The big man rushed up and roared as his fist contained terrifying power as it smashed against the black dragon inscription shield. The dragon inscription shield trembled, and it could be seen just how powerful that punch was. Bang! Bang! The big man continuously punched out, sending out wave after wave of terrifying power that continuously smashed against the black dragon inscription shield. Explosions sounded out and powerful gales continuously blew out. After withstanding such intense attacks, a few cracks appeared on the black dragon inscription shield, and more cracks appeared. Roar! The big man sent terrifying power into his hand and punched out, giving off a tiger's roar as a power that seemed to be able to destroy everything slammed against the black dragon inscription shield. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the black dragon inscription shield shattered, turning into countless motes of black light and dissipating. The ferocious punch continued towards Zhao Fu, seeming to want to turn the shield into minced meat. Everyone watched nervously. Zhao Fu had only been defending and had not attacked yet. Now that the shield had been broken, it was time for Zhao Fu to act. How would Zhao Fu act? Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as that terrifying punch was tightly grabbed by Zhao Fu's outstretched hand. By now, Zhao Fu's arm had become incredibly pale, and his fingernails had become incredibly sharp, making them look like ghostly claws and giving off powerful ghostly chi. Seeing his fist tightly grabbed, the big man felt quite startled. The cross-shaped pupil in Zhao Fu's right eye spun as he gave a condescending smile as he looked at the big man and said, "It's time for your show." Was he just putting on a show? The big man felt furious and roared as his other fist gave off terrifying power as he punched towards Zhao Fu, resulting in a massive explosion and a ferocious gale. Crackle! Countless blood-red arcs of lightning exploded out from Zhao Fu's other hand, and they were all as thick as a child's arm. They savagely ravaged the 10 or so meters behind Zhao Fu, creating a terrifying scene. Bang! Before the big man's fist could reach Zhao Fu's hand gave off blinding lightning as it slammed into the big man's abdomen. Zhao Fu's terrifying body pierced through the big man's body and sent him flying. The big man crashed 10 or so meters away, his chest a bloody mess. He could not help but bleed, and his face was pale as he looked at Zhao Fu in terror. He had also lost at Zhao Fu's hands. How could this god-killing power be so terrifying? From the viewing platforms, he knew that god-killing power was incredibly terrifying, as it had defeated the 5th-ranked Thunder God in a single move. However, he had still underestimated god-killing power, and only after personally experiencing it did he know how terrifying it was. The lightning formed by god-killing power pierced through his body, and he felt his soul, body, and divinity being filled with terror as if he was about to die. He was truly afraid, and as such, he looked at Zhao Fu in terror. The godly spirits on the viewing platform's expressions became quite unsightly. The strength god was the 3rd-ranked person, and yet he had still been defeated by that person in a single move. This person's power was simply too terrifying, and who could be a match for him now? Couldn't he give him some face? Couldn't he only defeat one person after 2 moves? Being defeated in a single move felt so embarrassing, and it made him seem so useless. Lord Emperor! Lord Emperor! Lord Emperor! Lord Emperor! This time, countless commoners could not hold it in anymore, and they excitedly and madly cheered for Zhao Fu. Their voices rang out in all directions, and the scene became incredibly lively. Yi Lanxi's family also had happy smiles on their faces, and they also excitedly shouted, "Your Majesty, Your Majesty!" Shen Xiao Yi Wu Wu and Wu Yi looked at Zhao Fu solemnly and did not say anything. They were all trying to guess who Zhao Fu was and just how powerful he was. Moon God Bud also gave a trace of a smile. Even though she felt that Zhao Fu was too mysterious and had too many secrets, she still stood on Zhao Fu's side. Seeing Zhao Fu win, she also gave a happy smile. News of what had happened quickly spread throughout the entire Beast Colosseum, and countless people heard about it and excitedly hurried over. Chapter 1997. More and more godly spirits and people rushed over, and the Beast Arena was filled to the brim. There was no way for it to hold any more people, but countless people still wanted to squeeze in, wanting to see the battle and to know who the Emperor God was. After a while, the crowd's excitement gradually calmed down, but they still looked at Zhao Fu with burning gazes. As for the Strength God, he had already been carried away to be treated. Zhao Fu once again turned around and looked at the godly spirits on the viewing platforms. His gaze was slightly condescending, and his voice became even more domineering as he said, "Who else? This person is too arrogant." The godly spirits looked slightly angry, but they understood that they were no match for Zhao Fu. As such, they could only look at a cold-looking, purple-clothed young man. He was the previous battle god, and he was ranked number 1 in terms of strength. Only he could stop that arrogant fellow, and the others had no hope at all. After all, even the 3rd-ranked person had been insta-killed, so how could they defeat him? Facing everyone's gazes, the cold-looking young man's expression did not change. He flew down from the viewing platforms and landed on the ground, looking at Zhao Fu coldly. The Beast Arena completely fell silent, and countless people looked at the arena expectantly. This time, even the previous battle god had personally acted, and countless people felt even more excited. Just what kind of battle would erupt between the two of them? Zhao Fu's expression became slightly serious because he could sense that this cold-looking young man was not simple at all and was much more powerful than the other godly spirits. Clang, 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 a massive wave of power exploded out from the cold-looking young man's body, and he was not surprised as he directly used his full strength. Weapons appeared in the air, including sabers, swords, spears, axes, staffs, lances, dagger axes, and various other weapons. All of them gave off a faint violet light and gave off powerful auras. The cold-looking young man was the weapon god, and he could control countless weapons to fight. He was incredibly powerful, and he had defeated countless people in the previous Battle God tournament and obtained the title of Battle God. Crackle! Zhao Fu also used his powerful god-slaying power. Blood-red lightning spread out, turning the area within 100 meters into a pool of lightning. The lightning constantly twisted, flashed, collided, and struck the ground. The lightning arcs were blood-red and formed a blood-red lightning lake. Zhao Fu stood at the center of the lightning lake and gave off a terrifying aura. The cold-looking young man reached out a hand and pointed it at Zhao Fu. The weapons behind him were all aimed at Zhao Fu. The cold-looking young man, who was weapon god, reached out and pushed forward. Xiao xiao xiao, the weapons gave off powerful auras and left behind rays of light as they quickly shot towards Zhao Fu with shocking power. Bang bang bang, the weapons shot into the lightning lake, and the blood-red lightning within the lightning lake gave off ferocious power as they hit the weapons, causing them to shatter and shoot out in all directions. The cold-looking young man looked quite startled and grabbed out with his hand, causing a spear to appear in his hand. He gripped the spear with both hands and raised it with the spearhead pointing downward. A massive wave of divine power entered it, causing the spear to ignite with a violet aura flame that formed a wild gale that blew out. Boom! Weapon God stabbed the spear into the ground with both hands, and a massive wave of power flowed into the ground, resulting in an explosion. Shing, 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 countless weapons stabbed out from the ground, forming a river of weapons. They gave off a ferocious power that seemed to be able to pierce through everything as they rushed towards Zhao Fu's blood-red lightning lake, seeming incredibly sharp. Crackle, countless bolts of lightning exploded out from the blood-red lightning pool, giving off crackling sounds as they started to gather. They gave off a power that seemed to be able to destroy all things as they shot forward. Bang! Bang! Massive sounds rang out as the countless weapons and lightning collided, resulting in massive explosions. Countless weapon shards shot everywhere as lightning flew everywhere, and a massive wind swept out. However, in the end, the countless weapons were shattered by the blood-red lightning, and the ferocious blood-red lightning continued to shoot towards Weapon God. Weapon God was expressionless as he raised the spear that was stabbed into the ground with one hand and sent all of his power into the spear. The spear ignited with an aura flame and gave off an incredibly terrifying might. Boom! Weapon God vigorously threw out the spear, which gave off a power that seemed to be able to pierce through everything. It seemed to cause space itself to explode, and it gave off a massive sound. No one could stop it, and it was incredibly terrifying. Bang! 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 The countless blood-red lightning bolts that shot towards Weapon God were pierced through by the spear's immense power, turning into countless motes of blood-red light and dissipating. The spear continued to give off shocking power as it flew incredibly quickly towards Zhao Fu, but it only passed through the air. Pooh! The spear pierced through Zhao Fu's chest, nailing Zhao Fu's body to the ground. The countless godly spirits gave delighted smiles. Their battle god was incredibly powerful, and he had killed Zhao Fu in a single attack. Zhao Fu deserved it. If he did not have the strength, he would not have been able to show off. Now, he had seen how powerful the battle god was. The commoners looked incredibly shocked. The emperor god they had supported had died just like that? They had never expected such a thing to happen. It was not just them. Xiao Yi, Wu Wu, and Wu Yi also looked incredibly shocked. The person they had thought to be extraordinary had died just like that? The Yi family and Moon God Bud were also incredibly shocked. Weapon God looked quite startled. He had never thought that this attack would be able to kill Zhao Fu, and he felt quite confused. Zhao Fu had given him the feeling that he would not be killed so easily. Roar! A massive dragon's roar sounded out in all directions, causing Weapon God to feel incredibly shocked. He felt as if he had fallen into an icy cavern, and his body started to tremble uncontrollably. Zhao Fu appeared behind him, and his glassy left eye gave off a strange light. His right hand formed a claw as countless blood-red lightning bolts shot out of his right hand, forming a terrifying lightning dragon that gave off god-killing power. Bang! Zhao Fu's claw slammed into Ice God's back, and the terrifying lightning dragon hit Ice God's back as well, sending him flying 1,000 meters away. Weapon God slammed into the wall of the Colosseum. The wall cracked and collapsed, and rocks flew everywhere. Several thick bolts of blood-red lightning struck the wall for a few seconds before finally dissipating. The wall caved in, and Weapon God was embedded in it, covered in blood. His breath was weak, and he had lost consciousness. He had passed out. Suddenly, everyone looked at Zhao Fu in shock. Hadn't he just been pierced through the chest by the spear? Why had he suddenly appeared behind Ice God and killed a godly spirit with one attack? Moreover, this was not an ordinary godly spirit, nor was he a famous fighter. He was the previous battle god, the most powerful godly spirit in this place, and no one could compare to him. Chapter 1998. Thinking back to the lightning dragon formed from god-killing power, the terrifying power that it had exploded out made it seem as if it was really going to kill a god. After suffering such a terrifying attack, ordinary godly spirits would have long since died. Weapon God did not feel wronged that he had been defeated by this move. The godly spirit's expressions became unsightly. Now that the previous battle god had been defeated, no one could stop him. Shen Xiaoi lightly harumphed. She did not believe that Zhao Fu would die so easily, but the power that Zhao Fu had displayed was truly terrifying. Moon God Ye and Yi Lanshi also let out sighs of relief. They had been given quite a fright. Lord Emperor! Lord Emperor! Lord Emperor! Lord Emperor! Now that Zhao Fu had defeated the previous battle god, with his strength, he was undoubtedly this year's battle god. No other godly spirit was a match for him, and countless people became even more excited and cheered. The scene was incredibly lively. Some people who could not enter the battle god arena heard the cheers and asked curiously what had happened. Then, they were shocked to find out that the previous war god was also defeated by the emperor god, and he was defeated in one move. So powerful! Even though they had not been able to enter to see, thinking about that scene made them feel quite excited. Zhao Fu once again turned and looked at the remaining 20 or so godly spirits on the viewing platform as he gave a trace of a condescending smile and said in an undisguised domineering voice, "Don't waste time, all of you come at me together." These words seemed to explode among the godly spirits, and many of them looked furious as they looked at Zhao Fu. Fudge! That boy is simply too arrogant. He wants all of us to come at him together. How infuriating! Bastard! Aren't you a little too arrogant? This is the first time I've seen such an arrogant person. He's looking down on us too much. Since he's seeking death, let's go together. I've long since disliked him and wanted to teach him a lesson. The godly spirits exploded out with powerful auras, forming a wild gale that spread out. That powerful aura caused the weather to change, and many commoners felt a wave of pressure. Boom! Boom boom boom, giving off powerful auras, the 20 or so godly spirits surrounded Zhao Fu and glared at Zhao Fu, looking quite furious. The countless residents gulped. This was really going to be a one-on-one fight against a group of godly spirits. It was so terrifying. Everyone looked incredibly excited and felt as if they were going to go crazy. Shen Xiaoi, Wu Yi, and Wu Wu looked at Zhao Fu in shock. A single person challenging a group of godly spirits was quite crazy. After all, these godly spirits were not weak, and they were all famous experts. It would be incredibly difficult for a single person to challenge them. Moon God Bud had a trace of a smile on her face. She believed in Zhao Fu's ability. With her understanding of Zhao Fu, he wouldn't say such a thing if he wasn't confident. The members of the Yi clan were rather worried. They were mainly worried that Zhao Fu would not be a match for a group of godly spirits, and they were worried that Zhao Fu would be heavily injured. They were all followers of Zhao Fu, and they did not want to see Zhao Fu injured. The godly spirits gave off massive auras as they surrounded Zhao Fu. One of the godly spirits with powerful auras said coldly, "Boy, it's not too late for you to apologize to us. It's not too late to apologize to us now. Otherwise, don't blame us later." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said domineeringly, "I told you to come at me together." Boom, boom, boom. Hearing these words, the godly spirits looked furious and could no longer hold it in and started to attack Zhao Fu. Even though it was a group of godly spirits against a single person, which was quite embarrassing, Zhao Fu had brought this upon himself. Seeing the godly spirits charge at him, Zhao Fu smiled and lightly cried out, "Celestial mode. Activate." Boom. A terrifying aura ferociously spread out like a flood, and a rainbow-colored aura flame appeared around Zhao Fu's body as a rainbow-colored magic formation appeared on his forehead. His eyes gave off rainbow-colored light as a rainbow-colored rune circle appeared with him at the center. Powerful winds blew out with Zhao Fu at the center, and the godly spirits charging at Zhao Fu felt quite startled. They stopped and looked at Zhao Fu seriously. So this is his true power? It's a bit too terrifying. However, since this battle had begun, they did not plan on using numbers. Moreover, they had a great advantage. Arg! A tall young man roared as he gripped a large saber with both hands and gave off a powerful aura as he rushed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he stretched out a hand and pointed at the young man. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a rainbow-colored ray of light shot out from Zhao Fu's finger, giving off shocking power as it ferociously shot towards the young man incredibly quickly. The tall young man felt quite startled and sent a powerful wave of power into his large saber. He vigorously slashed out, and a powerful saber light containing sharp power slashed towards the rainbow-colored ray of light. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the saber light and rainbow-colored ray of light collided, resulting in a massive explosion. The tall young man was sent flying back and crashed to the ground as a trace of blood leaked out of his lip. So powerful! Seeing Zhao Fu unleash such a powerful attack with a point of his finger, sending a godly spirit flying, the godly spirit muttered in shock. Boom! 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 A few more explosions sounded out as the godly spirits sent large amounts of power into their weapons and vigorously swung out, sending out terrifying cold lights towards Zhao Fu. Bang! 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 Zhao Fu did not move at all, and the ring of rainbow-colored runes around him gave off an intense rainbow-colored light and gave off a massive formless power as it slowly spun. The cold lights were deflected by a formless energy and were sent elsewhere, resulting in explosions. A few large craters were blasted out, causing rocks to fly everywhere and dust to fill the air. Zhao Fu looked at the attacking godly spirits, and a powerful wave of power gathered on his arm. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and countless traces of rainbow-colored light condensed into a massive arm. Boom! Zhao Fu vigorously swung out, and the massive rainbow-colored arm gave off terrifying power as it slammed towards the godly spirits. It gave off an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything, and the sand and rocks on the ground were all blown away. The godly spirits' expressions fell as they hurriedly blocked with their weapons, and their bodies gave off intense light. Bang! 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 The godly spirits were hit by that terrifying power and were sent flying back, giving off muffled sounds. Swish! The sound of the air being torn could be heard as an arrow brought with it a ray of light as it shot towards Zhao Fu. It was an attack from a godly spirit holding a bow. Chapter 1999. Zhao Fu noticed that godly spirit and turned to look at her. His eyes widened as a formless energy quickly attacked that godly spirit. Bang! The godly spirit was unable to react in time and was instantly sent flying. She crashed to the ground and a trace of blood leaked out of her lips. By now, the other godly spirits had all rushed in front of Zhao Fu and sent massive amounts of power into their weapons, causing them to give off intense light and terrifying auras. The godly spirits prepared to attack Zhao Fu from all directions. Zhao Fu's expression did not change much as he stretched out a hand and sent massive amounts of power into the Rainbow Talisman Ring. The Rainbow Talisman Ring gave off intense light and quickly spun, giving off terrifying power. Boom! Zhao Fu pushed out with his hand, and the Rainbow Talisman Ring gave off terrifying power and was incredibly fast as it blasted out in all directions. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as the godly spirits who had rushed up were all sent flying and crashed to the ground, a trace of blood leaking out of their lips. After the Rainbow Talisman Ring disappeared, the surroundings fell into a deathly silence. It was now deathly silent as the godly spirits lay on the ground and looked at Zhao Fu with unsightly expressions. The residents also looked at Zhao Fu in shock and did not make any sound. They only had one thought: how could this person be so powerful? Even with so many people ganging up on him, they had no advantage at all. However, they would not admit defeat so easily. They had only suffered some minor injuries, so they still had the strength to fight. Arg! A big man holding a hammer leapt forwards into the air and exploded out with all of his power, causing a powerful aura to spread out in the sky. The big man sent all of his power into the hammer, causing it to give off a formless energy field. Borrowing the momentum of its descent, it was like a meteor falling from the sky, giving off enough power to shatter the ground as it smashed towards Zhao Fu. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu raised a hand to catch the descending hammer. A shocking shockwave spread out, and the ground beneath Zhao Fu instantly collapsed. It could be seen just how powerful this attack was. The burly man was stunned. He never thought that Zhao Fu would be able to block his desperate attack so easily. A cold glint appeared in Zhao Fu's eyes, and he gave off a formless energy as he grabbed the hammer and pulled, causing the big man's body to fall towards Zhao Fu. Bang! Zhao Fu twisted his body and kicked out with astonishing power, directly hitting the muscular man's abdomen. The muscular man's body flew out like a rubber ball and crashed to the ground. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and fainted. Boom! A skinny middle-aged man holding two sabers quickly appeared behind Zhao Fu and sent terrifying power into the two sabers. They gave off intense saber lights as they crisscrossed and slashed towards Zhao Fu. Bang! Zhao Fu spun around and gave a roundhouse kick, kicking the skinny middle-aged man in the chest. The immense force sent the skinny middle-aged man flying, crashing onto the ground and coughing up a mouthful of blood. Several of his bones had been broken. Arg! A young man holding a sharp sword roared and gave off a powerful aura as he attacked Zhao Fu from the side. Zhao Fu vigorously swung the hammer that he had just grabbed, and the hammer gave off terrifying power as it quickly smashed towards the young man. The young man brandished his sword and slashed towards the hammer. However, the sharp light was shattered by the hammer and continued on towards him. Bang! The young man was unable to react in time and was hit by the hammer. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground, heavily injured. The attacks of the three people all ended with heavy injuries. This terrifying scene caused some of the godly spirits, who had been about to rush up, to stop and look at Zhao Fu seriously. They stopped attacking and Zhao Fu started to attack. Swish! Zhao Fu's body instantly disappeared, and the godly spirits were given a big fright. In the next second, Zhao Fu appeared in front of a rather chubby woman and punched her in the stomach. The woman's body flew back like a meatball and crashed into a wall before stopping. Blood leaked out of her mouth, and she felt as if her entire body had been battered. She leaned against the wall and did not have the strength to stand up. Seeing that Zhao Fu had taken the initiative to attack, the remaining godly spirits did not hesitate and continued to attack Zhao Fu. Boom! 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 The 8 or 9 godly spirits did their best to slash out 8 or 9 sharp lights that were 100 meters wide. They gave off terrifying power and intense gales as they flew towards Zhao Fu. Bang! 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 Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and a massive wave of power spread out. His palm gave off an intense rainbow-colored light and countless rainbow-colored runes spread out, forming a rainbow-colored barrier that blocked the attack. Zhao Fu waved his hand and dispelled the barrier. His body gave off a powerful aura as he quickly rushed at them. The godly spirits felt quite panicked, but they still gritted their teeth and rushed up. Bang! 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 Facing the incoming godly spirits, Zhao Fu gathered a massive wave of celestial power in his fist and punched out. A massive rainbow-colored ray of light containing terrifying power and a massive gale blasted towards the godly spirits. The godly spirits had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such a move, and they were sent flying before they could react. They lay on the ground and coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. Suddenly, a well-built young man appeared next to Zhao Fu and raised his massive axe as he leapt up and hacked towards Zhao Fu. The axe gave off an intense light, and it contained a shocking amount of power. Boom! Zhao Fu dodged to the side and the massive axe slammed into the ground, opening up a dozens of meter-long gash and causing rocks to fly everywhere. At that moment, Zhao Fu looked at the well-built young man. The well-built young man's hairs stood on end and he immediately felt an intense sense of danger. Before he could react, he was sent flying by a kick. Zhao Fu turned to look at the godly spirit closest to him. Seeing Zhao Fu kick the well-built young man half to death, the godly spirit looked quite afraid and immediately released an energy barrier around his body. Bang! Zhao Fu's body appeared in front of the godly spirit and he punched out with shocking power, directly shattering the barrier. Zhao Fu's fist brought with it a rainbow-colored light as it hit the godly spirit's chest, and the godly spirit was sent flying. The godly spirit coughed up a large mouthful of blood and could not even get up. Zhao Fu then looked at the other godly spirit. The other godly spirits looked slightly afraid. Bang! 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 Muffled sounds continuously sounded out as the godly spirits were sent flying back and coughed up large mouthfuls of blood before looking half dead. In the end, not a single godly spirit was left standing, and they all lay on the ground. Zhao Fu's gaze was cold and his voice was dignified as he said, "Now that I've become the war god, who else is unconvinced?" Chapter 2000. Seeing that the powerful godly spirits had all been defeated, the ordinary godly spirits who had hurried over naturally did not have any objections. After all, they were not as powerful as the defeated godly spirits, and were not a match for Zhao Fu. Lord Emperor God! Lord Emperor God! Lord Emperor God! Lord Emperor God! Countless people saw that Zhao Fu had won the final victory and directly became the war god of this year. They shouted crazily, their faces full of excitement and agitation. Moon God Sprout and the Yi family also smiled happily. The people outside heard the livelier and crazier voices inside, and became even more curious. What was happening inside? After that, they also learned of what had happened, and their faces were also filled with excitement. This year's war god was too strong. One person fought against so many strong deities alone and still won. Let me through, I want to see what Lord Emperor God looks like. Why are you squeezing? I want to go in too. But can't you see that the front is full of people? I can't even squeeze in. Why are there so many people? If I had known earlier, I would have come to this Colosseum. Not only can I see Lord Emperor God with my own eyes, but I can also see how he fights. I want to go in and take a look. There was already a sea of people outside. They wanted to go in and see the person who became the war god, but they couldn't squeeze in at all. The noise was also very noisy. In the Colosseum, Zhao Fu had a smile on his face. Now that he had finally become the war god, he could use the name of the war god to make the deities hand over their divine power. Although the war god was the nominal leader, handing over a little divine power was a small matter, and no one would refuse. However, looking at the group of seriously injured deities lying on the ground, he felt that he still needed to stay here for a few more days. Then, Zhao Fu left the Colosseum, and the Yi family and Xin Xiaoyi also left. This year's War God Festival ended early. Originally, many deities needed to compete and then choose the strongest to fight, and finally choose one person to be the war god. However, because of the appearance of Zhao Fu, everything was messed up. Zhao Fu directly became the war god, and the others didn't need to compete at all, so this year's War God Festival ended early. Back at the original carriage, everyone was back. At this time, everyone was talking about this year's War God. What happened in the War God arena quickly spread. Everyone knew what had happened, and they were chatting excitedly. "My lord, you're really strong." In the carriage, Yilan had a smile on her face as she looked at Zhao Fu with a hint of worship in her eyes. The other 3 Yi clan members were the same. At first, the others did not know what was going on. Some of them went to other colosseums while others were playing on the streets. Only after the explanation from others did they understand. Zhao Fu went to participate in the War God competition. He single-handedly challenged a group of gods and finally became this year's War God. Now, the War God that countless people were talking about was Zhao Fu in front of them. Everyone looked at Zhao Fu in shock. It had only been a short time since they had last met, yet Zhao Fu had caused such a huge commotion. His power was so terrifying, and they had heard from others about how Zhao Fu had defeated so many powerful godly spirits by himself. In actuality, this group of godly spirits was very powerful to others, but to Zhao Fu they were quite weak. One could not forget that Zhao Fu had fought with the Outlander Domain's 10 top geniuses. In the end, Zhao Fu had won and obtained the Outlander Domain's #1 position. The Outlander Domain's 10 top geniuses represented the Outlander Domain's most powerful people. For Zhao Fu to be able to defeat them meant that he was above them. As someone who stood at the peak of the world, it was naturally not a problem for Zhao Fu to defeat these godly spirits. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "It's not a big deal, we just lost a group of slightly stronger godly spirits." Everyone thought about Zhao Fu's terrifying identity as a holy son and did not feel too shocked. However, Xin Xiaoyi and the other 2 did not know that they were now filled with curiosity towards Zhao Fu. Xin Xiaoyi looked at Zhao Fu seriously as she asked, "Just who are you? Why do you have such terrifying power, and most importantly, as a godly spirit, why do you have such terrifying god-killing power?" Zhao Fu laughed as he said, "Why should I tell you?" Xin Xiaoyi angrily hugged the moon god Sprout as she said, "Big sis? She's bullying me, so help me teach her a lesson." Before, Xin Xiaoyi had wanted to teach Zhao Fu a lesson herself. However, after personally witnessing how powerful Zhao Fu was, she understood that she was not a match for Zhao Fu. If Zhao Fu acted, she might be taught a lesson by Zhao Fu. The moon god Sprout apologetically smiled as she said, "I don't know about these things, and he did not tell me. However, his identity is far more terrifying than you can imagine, so don't ask anymore." Xin Xiaoyi looked at the moon god Sprout with her large eyes and felt quite shocked. She believed that the moon god Sprout would not lie to her. However, she had already told everyone that she was the God King's daughter, and her identity was even more noble than ordinary princes of kingdoms. For the moon god Sprout to say such a thing, it meant that Zhao Fu's identity was even more terrifying than his. Thinking about the emperor name that Zhao Fu had given himself in the beast arena, could this fellow be the emperor's son? Xin Xiaoyi looked at Zhao Fu. Even though she could sense that Zhao Fu was not ordinary, he did not have the aura or power that an emperor should have. Xin Xiaoyi did not believe that he was the emperor's son. She did not know that Zhao Fu was no longer the emperor's son but a holy son with an initial stage divine bloodline. By the side, Wu Yi said, "Your Majesty, it's best that we leave as soon as possible. There's no need to trouble this lord." Now that Wu Yi and Wu Wu knew how powerful Zhao Fu was, they did not dare to let Qin Xiaoyi stay by Zhao Fu's side. After all, if Zhao Fu acted against them, they would not be able to resist at all, which was too dangerous. Qin Xiaoyi looked at Zhao Fu and lightly harumphed. I don't want to leave. I want to be with Big Sis. Also, we need to figure out this fellow's identity. Hearing this, Wu Yi and Wu Wu looked quite troubled and tried to persuade her. Qin Xiaoyi immediately said, Don't say any more. I know what I'm talking about and I have my own plans. You don't need to worry about my safety. If this fellow wanted to harm us, he would have acted long ago and would not have waited until now. Wu Yi and Wu Wu could only agree and did not say anything else. Zhao Fu looked quite startled as he looked at Qin Xiaoyi. She seemed quite mature, and her goal for following the moon god Sprout did not seem simple. Could it be that she had discovered the moon god Sprout's 10-yin immortal body? Zhao Fu understood that this fellow was not simple. After all, she was the daughter of a king god. Chapter 2001. When the guards heard this, they were shocked. The person in front of them was the Emperor God who had challenged all the gods. They did not dare to be negligent. They respectfully invited Zhao Fu and the others in and hurriedly reported to the gods. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and followed the guard to a guest hall. The main reason for coming here was to greet them first. Because Zhao Fu was just passing by and the others did not know Zhao Fu's identity, they informed the gods of this place so that they could accept the title of war god, as well as a little information about this place. Now that Zhao Fu was the war god and the nominal leader of this place, there might be a lot of benefits after knowing the information here. This favorable condition could not be wasted. Finally, it was to let them hand over a part of their divine power so that their power of 10,000 gods could be further improved. Originally, the War God Festival would take several days to end, but now because of the appearance of Zhao Fu, it ended on the first day. This was too fast. However, according to the past rules, even if it ended so quickly, there was still a need for a big celebration. In the end, many gods would gather together and recognize a person as the war god. Not long after Zhao Fu sat in the living room, a ruddy old man with a white beard quickly rushed over. When he heard that the person who had just become the war god came to his temple, he was shocked. He put down what he was doing and hurried over. He had seen how powerful this person was. Moreover, he was already the war god, the nominal leader. Naturally, he had to be polite and did not dare to have any thoughts of offending or neglecting him. When he came to the living room, the old man instinctively bowed and said, "Lord Emperor God, what can I do for you?" Zhao Fu said with a smile, "You don't have to be so polite. I'm here to tell you where I am and to understand the situation here. Tell me about it." The old man breathed a sigh of relief. "No problem. I'll tell you what you want to know right away." Then, the old man began to explain the information of this place. There were more than 450 gods here, divided into different forces of different sizes. The area had already covered 10 worlds. Although there were some conflicts between the two sides, and there were some wars because of the War God Festival, there was an invisible force that united the gods and people of this force, so they unanimously rejected outsiders. With the strength of the many gods in this area, almost no forces dared to rashly invade. That was why the many forces in this area were stable, and the War God Festival could last for thousands of years. Unfortunately, as the war god of this place, he was only the nominal leader of the alliance and did not have any real control rights. Otherwise, he could control all the forces in this area, which was basically equivalent to the forces of a kingdom. Moreover, there were conditions to unify this area. The people and the gods of the various forces all recognized them as a group, and not people who were separated. As long as a powerful force appeared, they could start a war to unify the world and establish a kingdom-level force. Zhao Fu did not have any powerful faction here, and he was an outsider. Even though he had methods to control godly spirits, unifying this place was not a simple matter. In fact, Zhao Fu did not have any intention of controlling this place, because he was just passing by and would not stay here for too long. Otherwise, he could spend some time to complete the unification of this area. After understanding these things, Zhao Fu was not surprised. There were some benefits after becoming the war god, but Zhao Fu did not care about those benefits. The most attractive thing to Zhao Fu was the divine power of the 400 gods. A few days later, some of the injured gods had mostly recovered from their injuries and began the final celebration banquet. In the past few days, many people were enthusiastically celebrating this festival. It was very lively everywhere, and the faces of the people were filled with joy. Some were dancing in groups, while others were sitting at the table, drinking wine and eating meat. His gaze turned to a platform made of stone bricks that was dozens of meters tall and 10,000 meters wide. This was the Moon Observatory, the place where many gods celebrated. Every year, the War God Festival was celebrated here. It was now nighttime, and there was a big round moon in the deep blue sky, giving off a bright moonlight that seemed to cover the ground with a thin veil. There were tables on the platform, on which there was a dazzling array of delicacies, spirit fruits, and spirit wine. There were already many godly spirits here, chatting and laughing. The weapon god coldly stood to the side and did not say anything, while the strength god and thunder god did not look happy either. In actuality, many of the godly spirits had been waiting for a certain person. That person was today's main character, and this banquet was centered around him. After a while, Zhao Fu brought the elderly man, Moon God Sprout, Yilan Shi, and Shen Xiao Yi to the platform. Zhao Fu did not want to bring them, but Shen Xiao Yi and Moon God Sprout had wanted to come, so Zhao Fu had brought them. As soon as he arrived, Zhao Fu attracted everyone's gazes. It was not just because of Zhao Fu's power, but also because of Moon God Sprout's beauty, Shen Xiao Yi's King God aura, and Yilan Shi's dark and strange aura. Seeing Zhao Fu appear with them, everyone felt quite shocked and felt that everyone around Zhao Fu was not simple at all. Zhao Fu came to the platform and did not stand on ceremony, and sat at the highest position. The godly spirits all sat down. There were different levels here, and Zhao Fu sat at the very top. There was only one long table there, and it was the largest table. The more powerful people sat on both sides, and behind them sat ordinary godly spirit. Zhao Fu's eyes lit up. Sitting on either side of Zhao Fu were the godly spirits that Zhao Fu had defeated a few days ago. Their injuries had been healed over the past few days, and they had mostly recovered. However, when facing Zhao Fu, there was still some fear on their faces. Zhao Fu's power and the pain he had suffered had been deeply engraved into their minds, and they instinctively feared Zhao Fu. Now, even if Zhao Fu was just as arrogant and domineering as before and looked down on them, they could only endure it. After all, strength spoke in this world, and even if they had charged up and been defeated, the godly spirits were convinced of this. As the previous weapon god, they had already acknowledged Zhao Fu's position. Zhao Fu looked at the godly spirits and gave a trace of a smile as he raised a cup of wine and said, "Even though I'm not from here, I'm still very happy today. Everyone, let's celebrate." Chapter 2002. Many of the deities heaved a sigh of relief. If Zhao Fu was as domineering and disdainful as before, they would have been very embarrassed. Some of the deities who were fighting with Zhao Fu still had fearful expressions on their faces. Although Zhao Fu had become gentle, they were still in pain and could not communicate with Zhao Fu normally. The other ordinary deities did not have any misgivings. They had only been watching from afar, but now that Zhao Fu had become the battle god and the owner of this place, they naturally began to express goodwill towards Zhao Fu. "Come. Let me toast to Emperor God, congratulations on becoming the battle god. I am also extremely happy today that such a peerless expert has become the battle god. We are all convinced. Emperor God is obviously not an ordinary person. His status must be very high and we cannot reach him. Please take care of him in the future. Ha! I actually like this kind of character of the Emperor God. You are overbearing and powerful, and you also have such terrifying power. Emperor God, I also propose a toast to you. In order to celebrate the Emperor God becoming the war god, let's drink until we are drunk. Good. I also support Emperor God. Let me toast to Emperor God. Zhao Fu held a cup of wine in one hand and smiled. Thank you, everyone. He then drank the wine in his cup in one gulp. The other deities also smiled and drank the wine in their cup. The atmosphere became lively as many deities talked and laughed. The deities who had been beaten up by Zhao Fu before saw Zhao Fu's gentle smile, and the fear in their hearts faded a lot, and their expressions became less stiff. Sitting next to Zhao Fu were 3 women. The first was Moon God Sprout. As the daughter of a kingdom princess, she had a faint smile on her face, and was not nervous about facing so many deities. She had seen this kind of scene many times. As for the second was Shun Xiao Yi, as the daughter of a king god, she often spent time with many deities. She directly ignored the deities around her and happily ate the delicious food and spirit fruits on the table. She did not forget about Moon God Sprout. Whenever she ate something delicious, she would give it to Moon God Sprout. The last one was Yi Lanxi. Even though she was very beautiful and had great potential, she was only a young girl from a small mountain village. It was her first time seeing so many godly beings. She had never seen such a scene before, so she appeared somewhat nervous. She quietly sat beside Zhao Fu and stealthily grabbed the corner of Zhao Fu's clothes. Zhao Fu also noticed her and smiled as he took a fruit from the table and handed it to her. Yi Lanxi felt a surge of warmth in her heart and happily smiled sweetly as she received the fruit from Zhao Fu. However, Yi Lanxi was currently wearing a white porcelain-like mask on her face. It was not tasty, but Yi Lanxi did not take it off. She was worried that if her appearance was exposed, it would cause trouble for Zhao Fu. Although she didn't eat the fruit, she still sat there happily with the fruit in her hand. Moon God Sprout noticed the changes in Yi Lanxi. To her, Yi Lanxi posed a great threat to her because Yi Lanxian's appearance was only slightly inferior to hers and seemed to have great potential. However, Moon God Sprout knew that she could not possess Zhao Fu by herself, so she could only accept this. However, she couldn't help but feel jealous and rolled her eyes at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly smiled as he also took out a fruit and handed it to her. Moon God Sprout gave a pleased smile and took the fruit, bringing it to her mouth and taking a small bite. Because of her beauty, many godly beings couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. At that moment, the previous battle god, the weapon god, looked at Zhao Fu and asked earnestly, "Now that you've become this place's battle god, can you tell us who you are?" Hearing this, everyone looked at Zhao Fu. This was undoubtedly what they cared about the most. As from Zhao Fu's performance, he was not simple at all. Shun Xiaoyi immediately stopped eating, and her mouth bulged as she looked at Zhao Fu. It was evident that she cared about Zhao Fu's identity. Yi Lanxi also looked at Zhao Fu curiously. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "I'm sorry, but I'm unable to tell you who I am because it would cause unnecessary trouble. Also, I'm just passing by and won't be staying for too long. I'll leave in a few days and won't affect you at all." Hearing this, the godly beings felt quite happy. With how terrifying Zhao Fu's strength was, if he stayed here, he would definitely become a battle god every year. When that time came, he would develop into a terrifying faction and might even devour their region. Hearing that Zhao Fu would be leaving in a few days, they did not have to worry about this at all. However, even though the godly beings thought this, they still acted quite courteously and invited Zhao Fu to stay for a few days. They would properly receive Zhao Fu as a host. Zhao Fu smiled and said his final goal, "There's no need for that. Also, I have a small matter that I would like to trouble everyone with." Hearing that it was a small matter, the godly beings beside him immediately smiled and said, "What small matter?" If we can do it, we will definitely do it. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "It's nothing much. I just want to ask everyone to gather a portion of your divine power for me. It's quite simple, right?" The godly beings could not help but laugh. It was just using up some godly beings, which was incredibly simple for them. They would be able to make up for it with just some cultivation. Many of the godly beings were willing to use their divine power to befriend such a terrifying figure. However, some of the godly beings were quite curious. With Zhao Fu's terrifying power, what did he need their divine power for? Some of the godly beings asked. Zhao Fu smiled as he explained, "Everyone, don't worry. I'm just collecting this godly spirit's power and won't harm anyone. If you don't feel at ease, you can disconnect that portion of power from your main bodies. That way, you won't have to worry about anything." Hearing this, the godly beings felt at ease. Even if Zhao Fu had not said this, they would have done so anyway. Apart from the godly beings, there were also some female attendants on the stage. They took away the plates and flasks of wine and replaced them with new dishes, spirit fruits, and fine wine. The banquet lasted for a few hours before ending, and some godly beings really did faint from drinking. However, before that, Zhao Fu had obtained what he wanted, which was the 400 or so orbs made of divine power. During the banquet, Zhao Fu drank a lot of wine. However, with Zhao Fu's powerful constitution, the wine did not affect him at all. By now, it was late at night, and the bright moon in the sky gave off a clear and cold moonlight. The night was as calm as water without any ripples. Zhao Fu took the orbs and impatiently brought everyone back to the God Palace. Chapter 2003. Zhao Fu sat cross-legged at the center of the temple, and the others had already retreated outside, waiting for Zhao Fu to absorb the godly spirit power. Zhao Fu did not tell them why he was devouring godly spirit power, so they did not know why Zhao Fu had devoured so much godly spirit power. Within the temple, fist-sized orbs of light flew out of Zhao Fu's spatial ring and floated around Zhao Fu's body, giving off faint light. Zhao Fu closed his eyes and a formless energy spread out as fist-sized orbs of light continuously fused into Zhao Fu's body. A powerful godly spirit aura spread out in all directions like a flood. Even the room was unable to stop it, and it continued to spread out. The people waiting outside sensed this massive godly spirit aura and their expressions became serious. They understood that Zhao Fu was doing something terrifying inside. Xin Xiaoyi hugged the moon god Sprout's arm and asked, "Big sis, what's that fellow doing inside?" Everyone looked at the moon god Sprout because the moon god Sprout was the closest to Zhao Fu and should know what Zhao Fu was doing. Facing everyone's gazes, the moon god Sprout said awkwardly, "He didn't tell me about this, and I didn't ask him. I only knew that he was absorbing godly spirit power on the way. Perhaps this is very important to him." Seeing that the moon god Sprout did not know, everyone could only look away and continue to look at the temple. Within the temple, Zhao Fu had fused with 400 or so godly spirit power, and a massive wave of godly spirit power filled his body. Zhao Fu immediately controlled the divinity in his mind and continuously absorbed that massive wave of godly spirit power. That wave of godly spirit power was continuously absorbed by Zhao Fu, and in the end, it was all absorbed by Zhao Fu's divinity. After absorbing so much power, the divinity gave off an intense black light and started to go through changes. It was said before that Zhao Fu was only a few hundred more godly spirit power away from the 10,000 godly power before it could become a higher grade 10,000 godly power. A while later, the divinity's transformation was complete. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the godhood gave off intense black light that seeped out of Zhao Fu's body and into the outside world. A terrifying wave of divine power spread out, causing everything to freeze. The people in the surroundings felt their bodies sink, and their expressions changed. Not only was this godly power terrifying, but it also contained a terrifying might, as if it was a godly power that was above all other godly spirits. This type of divine power was very likely to be King God's power, because King God's power was divine power that surpassed ordinary godly spirits, and it had an innate might towards ordinary godly spirits. However, this power was not King God's power but an even more powerful divine power that was much more terrifying than King God's power. It gave off an even more powerful might and seemed to contain the power of God's. Boom! A massive figure appeared in the sky. It was a figure wearing a cloak and gave off a mysterious and terrifying aura. It was 5,000 meters tall and gave off a massive aura that spread out like a flood. Sensing this terrifying aura, the countless sleeping people and godly spirits felt quite startled and turned to look in that direction. This was the god statue that Zhao Fu had condensed. It was originally only 1,000 meters tall, but now that it had become a higher level of divine power, it became even more powerful. The god statue became 5,000 meters tall and gave off an even more powerful might. The wind and clouds began to change, and the power of heaven and earth continued to gather like a tide, pouring into the huge deity statue. The god statue stood in the air and continuously devoured massive amounts of heaven and earth power, giving off powerful divine light that covered the heavens and earth. The massive ripples attracted godly spirits from all directions to quickly hurry over. Zhao Fu closed his eyes and started to familiarize himself with the more powerful 10,000 gods' power. Now that it had become a higher level of 10,000 gods' power, the god statue could use heaven and earth power and fuse with the heavens and earth, grasping massive amounts of power. The second was that the 10,000 gods' power countered other godly spirits, and it also gave off an innate might. The third was that Zhao Fu had obtained a method to summon godly spirits, which was to summon godly spirits that had fused with divine power. The summoned godly spirits were not true godly spirits and were condensed from godly spirit. They only had some simple abilities and were not as powerful as the main body. However, even though this was not the main body, the summoned godly spirits were not weak at all. If he summoned a group of them, they would have terrifying effects. Just thinking about the army of godly spirits, one could understand just how terrifying this ability was. The final ability was to use divine power to refine weapons, raising their grades and power and increasing their compatibility with the user. The effects were similar to Fate Divine Armament. Zhao Fu thought of the swords that he had subdued in the past. As his cultivation continuously increased, the opponents he encountered became more and more powerful. Zhao Fu rarely used them now and only placed them in sword seals. He used the emperor-killing sword the most often, and he was not satisfied with the other swords. These swords had been by his side for so many years and had witnessed him grow step by step from being weak to becoming powerful. Zhao Fu definitely would not mistreat them. He could now refine them into Fate Divine Armaments, giving them even more power and greater freedom. By now, the experts had arrived near the Death God Palace. Looking at the massive figure in the sky, they naturally understood who had caused all of this. Sensing this even more powerful power, everyone's expressions became quite serious. Facing this power, they could not do anything about it at all. Moreover, what was that person saying? How could he cause such massive ripples? Xing. Before countless people could react, a massive sword hum sounded out as a black sword giving off demonic chi shot out from the Death God Palace. It flew into the air and pointed downwards in front of the massive god statue. Boom! The god statue gave off a massive aura, drawing on heaven and earth power in the surroundings and sending it into the demon sword. After receiving the massive amount of heaven and earth power, the demon sword continuously trembled and a massive wave of demonic chi ferociously swept out like a flood. It seemed to be able to inundate everything, and no one could stop it. Sensing this massive wave of demonic chi, everyone felt a chill throughout their bodies, as if they had fallen into an abyss. They could not help but feel afraid. Some godly spirits immediately ordered ordinary residents to temporarily evacuate. They would not be able to withstand such a massive wave of demonic chi. The godly spirits unleashed defensive barriers to defend against the demonic chi. However, things were not so simple and were starting to change. Chapter 2004. Shing, 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 the sky demon sword gave off a massive wave of sword chi that swept out like a wild gale. It became larger and larger until it was hundreds of meters long. It gave off a massive black sword light and a heaven-toppling demonic intent, making it seem like the most powerful demon sword in the world. Everyone looked at the terrifying demon sword and felt quite afraid. Its demonic energy was quite terrifying. Boom! The statue grabbed at the air, and a formless energy grabbed onto the terrifying demon sword. The statue moved its hand to the side, and the demon sword automatically moved to the side until it was 1,000 meters away from the statue. Shing! The demon sword froze there and gave off a massive demonic light that covered the heavens and earth, making it seem like a demonic world. A figure slowly appeared and stood on the sky demon sword's hilt. It slowly spread out its massive black wings, revealing its appearance. It was a female demon and had a tall and slim figure. She had jet-black waist-length hair and a pair of argali horns on her head. Her face was incredibly beautiful, and it was a suffocating beauty. She also had a pair of fangs and a pair of blood-red eyes, and she gave off a proud aura. She was the Sky Demon Sword's sword spirit. The Sky Demon gave a faint smile as it looked at the statue in front of it. Zhao Fu had finally remembered them. He had locked them up in the sword mark this entire time, so the Sky Demon had been quite resentful. However, after sensing its immense power, the Sky Demon did not mind because Zhao Fu had given her the power of the Demon Lord, the supreme power of the demon world. Shing! A massive sword hum once again sounded out as another sword flew out from the Death God Palace. It flew into the air and faced downwards in front of the statue. This sword was called the Slaughtering Ghost Sword, and it was the second sword that Zhao Fu had obtained. It had a ghost attribute, and Zhao Fu controlled the statue and started to use the Death Race's Supreme Emperor Star's power. Boom! A massive wave of Supreme Death Race power flowed into the Slaughtering Ghost Sword, causing it to continuously tremble and excitedly absorb that terrifying wave of Supreme Death Race power. The Slaughtering Ghost Sword became hundreds of meters larger and gave off a faint gray light. Countless traces of Yin Qi flowed out of the sword, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet, and everyone felt a chill. Countless ghostly howls came from the Yin Qi. They were very loud and resounded through the sky. It was as if thousands of ghosts were howling. The scene was extremely horrifying. Boom! The statue grabbed at the air, and a formless energy grabbed onto the terrifying demonic sword. The statue moved its hand to the side, and the Slaughtering Ghost Sword automatically moved to the side until it was 1,000 meters away from the statue. Clang! The Slaughtering Ghost Sword froze in place and gave off a massive wave of ghostly chi that covered the surroundings. There were faint ghostly figures within it, and the Slaughtering Ghost Sword at the center looked like the King of Ghosts. A terrifying figure slowly appeared, stepping on the sword. She was a woman with a slender figure. She wore a red and black armor and held a sharp sword in her hand. Her hair reached her waist and draped over her shoulders. Her face could be said to be perfect without a single flaw. However, her blood-red eyes were cold and emotionless. She was the Slaughtering Ghost Sword's sword spirit, Slaughtering Ghost. The Slaughtering Ghost Sword appeared on the hilt of the sword, and even though its expression was still cold, when it looked at the statue, its gaze became much gentler. Even though Zhao Fu rarely used it, she did not mind. She greatly acknowledged Zhao Fu and knew how difficult it had been for Zhao Fu to get to where he was. Clang! A sword hum once again sounded out as a wooden sword flew out from the temple. It flew in front of the statue and pointed downwards. This sword was called the Royal Wood Sword, and it was Zhao Fu's third general. It had a wood attribute, but its sword spirit and materials were from the elf royal race. Boom! The statue stretched out a hand and a massive wave of Outlander Sovereign's power entered the royal wood sword. The royal wood sword gave off an intense green light, and it gave off a wave of life force that covered the surroundings. Under this powerful life force, not only did everyone feel comfortable, but the grass, trees, and flowers on the ground also quickly grew. The size of the royal wood sword continued to increase, becoming a wooden sword that was hundreds of meters long. Boom! The statue grabbed at the air, and a formless energy grabbed onto the royal wood sword. The statue's hand moved to the side, and the royal wood sword automatically moved to the side until it was 1,000 meters away from the statue. Clang! The royal wood sword froze there and gave off an intense green light. The image of a massive tree gradually appeared, dyeing the heavens and earth green and giving off a dense aura of life. A beautiful young woman slowly appeared on the hilt of the royal wood sword. She had silver-white hair, silver-white eyes, pointy ears, and a pretty face. She wore a green dress, and she gave off a noble and gentle aura that could move anyone's heart. She was the royal wood sword's sword spirit. Clang! A massive sword hum once again sounded out as a green sword flew into the sky and stopped in front of the statue. It faced downwards and gave off a faint green light. This was Zhao Fu's fourth sword, and it was called the Sin Dragon Sword. It contained dragon's power, water's power, and disaster's power. It was one of the more powerful swords out of all of them, and Zhao Fu had obtained it during the disaster festival. Boom! The statue stretched out a hand towards the Sin Dragon Sword and started to send large amounts of Dragon Emperor's power into it. Zhao Fu had the Dragon Emperor bloodline, and he also had the Devil Race's Supreme Emperor Star, the Violet Sky Dragon Star. Now, Zhao Fu sent both of these powers into the sword. The Sin Dragon Sword continuously absorbed these two types of powers and gave off an intense light. A massive dragons might spread out and weigh down on everyone's bodies, causing the surroundings to fall into deathly silence. As the Sin Dragon Sword absorbed power, it continuously became larger and stronger. Its dragons might become more and more terrifying, and it even caused cracks to appear on the buildings below. Boom! The statue once again grabbed at the air, and a formless energy grabbed onto the Sin Dragon Sword. The statue's hand moved to the side, and the Sin Dragon Sword automatically moved to the side until it was 1,000 meters away from the statue. Roar! The Sin Dragon Sword froze there and gave off an intense green light. A massive dragon's roar sounded throughout the sky as a massive green dragon appeared, giving off a terrifying dragon's might. A figure appeared on the hilt of the sword. It was a beautiful woman with a seductive figure and large breasts. She wore a simple green dress and did not wear anything underneath. She looked quite beautiful and had long, green hair and a pair of dragon horns on her forehead. She gave off a flirtatious aura. She was the Sin Dragon Sword's sword spirit, and she was the sword spirit that gave Zhao Fu the biggest headache. After the Sin Dragon appeared, she looked at the statue of Zhao Fu and licked her lips, looking incredibly thirsty. Chapter 2005. The four swords gave off terrifying power, and they were spread out in different directions, taking up different parts of the world. They gave off different lights, seeming to split the world into four directions. The weather changed as clouds swirled and powerful ripples spread out. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Even though they understood what Zhao Fu was going to do, which was to refine a fate armament, the ripples were simply too terrifying. It was a power that could destroy the heavens and earth, and the power that the statue had sent into the swords was incredibly terrifying. It was a power that they could not even come into contact with. Most importantly, it was not just one type of power but four different types of power. It was an extremely terrifying power, and ordinary people would not be able to have just one type of power. However, this person had four types of power. This was simply too terrifying. How could there be such a terrifying person in the world? Only those who had fought with Zhao Fu before could deeply understand how terrifying Zhao Fu was. He had not used his true strength when fighting with them before, and if he used his current power, he would be able to easily destroy them. This was a power that could cause others to despair. It was not just the godly spirits, even the people by Zhao Fu's side were incredibly shocked. Zhao Fu had not told them much, so they did not know anything about Zhao Fu. Even though they knew that Zhao Fu was a holy son, it seemed that Zhao Fu was not as simple as an ordinary holy son. He had many terrifying secrets. Xing! Another sword hum sounded out, breaking everyone's thoughts. A white sword once again flew out from the God Palace and came before the statue. This was the fifth sword that Zhao Fu had obtained, and it was called the Seraph Sword. It was of the light attribute, and the Seraph race was from the God race. It had a powerful purifying power, and was very destructive towards darkness creatures. Zhao Fu had not awakened the God race's Emperor Star, nor did he have any light attribute power. However, he now had 10,000 godly power. Boom! The statue stretched out a hand and a massive wave of 10,000 godly power flooded into the Seraph Sword. As a God race sword, 10,000 godly power was the most suitable for it. The Seraph Sword gave off an intense white light, making it seem as if it was daytime. The darkness retreated as a holy power covered the heavens and earth, making it seem as if there was no darkness at all. Boom! The statue grabbed at the air, and a formless energy grabbed the powerful angel sword. The statue moved its hand to the side, and the angel sword automatically moved to the side, 1,000 meters away from the statue. Clang! The Seraph Sword froze there and gave off an enormous light, illuminating the heavens and earth, and a holy aura filled the world. White feathers slowly floated down from the sky, like snowflakes filling the sky. A figure spread its wings and gave off a soft white light as it slowly appeared on the hilt of the Seraph Sword. She had 6 pairs of pure white wings and a graceful figure. She had long, golden hair, a beautiful face, and golden eyes. She wore a white robe and gave off a holy aura. She was the Seraph Angel Sword Spirit. Sword chimes resounded through the sky. Sword after sword flew out of the Divine Hall and hovered in front of the Divine Hall. Terrifying power was constantly injected into the Divine Hall, and each sword received a corresponding terrifying power. The Corpse Soul Sword gave off a massive amount of corpse chi, covering the heavens and earth. It gave off a formless baleful aura, causing countless creatures to feel fear and not dare to take a step forward. One of the sword spirits was dressed in pale white armor, and had a saber at her waist. She had a seductive figure and a pair of blood-red eyes. She was peerlessly beautiful, and had a mouth full of fangs, giving off a cold and cruel aura. The Death Disaster Sword gave off boundless deathly aura, turning the heavens and earth into a world of death. There was no life and only death, and the place became deathly silent, making it seem quite terrifying. The Sword Spirit was a woman with a mature figure and wore a gray-white palace dress. Her skin was pale and her face was beautiful. Her expression was quite stiff and she gave off a classical aura. The heaven-sealing sword floated in the air, and gave off a massive sealing magic formation, seeming to seal the heavens and earth. That place seemed to be locked down and everything seemed to stop, giving off a powerful sealing power. The sword spirit was a little girl who was quite pretty and had tender skin. She wore a red dress and looked quite pure. The illusory sword gave off a formless energy that covered the heavens and earth, causing the heavens and earth to seem both real and illusory. It gave off a terrifying illusory power, and anyone who entered it would be unable to escape. The sword spirit was a beautiful woman with a pair of beautiful eyes and a slim figure. She wore a palace dress and gave off an illusory aura as she silently stood on the hilt of the sword. 9 terrifying swords floated in the air with the divine statue at the center. They gave off different lights and powers, splitting the world into 9 directions. terrifying auras continuously spread out like floodwaters, and nothing could stop them. The world became icy cold and gave off an incredibly dangerous aura as if it was about to be destroyed. The godly spirits all retreated to the side in terror, not daring to stand close. The moon god Sprout's people were the same, as they could die at any moment. This terrifying thing was not over yet. Shing! A cold sword hum sounded out, seeming to tear through the sky and shatter the ground. Everyone's hearts trembled and they instinctively felt afraid. A black and blood-red sword flew out from the divine temple. This sword was evidently not ordinary, and the terrifying power it gave off far surpassed that of the other swords. It was definitely the most terrifying sword. The Emperor Killing Sword seemed to have all of Zhao Fu's powers. Zhao Fu did not need to fuse any power into it, and he could gather heaven and earth power to raise the Emperor Killing Sword's grade. Boom! The divine statue stretched out a hand towards the Emperor Killing Sword, and a massive wave of heaven and earth power started to gather, continuously entering the Emperor Killing Sword. The Emperor Killing Sword gave off a black and blood-red light, and a cold and murderous power spread out. Because of the appearance of that sword, the moon in the sky seemed to be dyed with blood, and the calm blood-red moon gave off a cold and chilling moonlight. The godly spirits all retreated in terror as they stared at that sword. This sword was incredibly terrifying and had the power to destroy everything. How could there be such a terrifying sword in the world? Heaven and earth power continuously flowed into the Emperor Killing Sword, causing it to continuously give off black and blood-red sword light. Terrifying sword chi formed wild gales that swept out, causing the surroundings to be filled with killing intent. Boom! Chapter 2006. Shing! A heaven-shaking sword hum once again sounded out as the Emperor Killing Sword froze there. A cold sword intent and killing intent spread out, causing the heavens and earth to become blood-red, and cracks appeared in space. A figure slowly appeared on the hilt of the sword. It was a woman wearing a blood-red dress. She was tall and slim and had white skin. She had long black hair that reached her waist and was extremely beautiful. She had a pair of golden eyes and gave off a noble aura. She was the Emperor Killing Sword's sword spirit and had once been the princess of the Heaven Murder Empire. She had a pure imperial bloodline and was called Diyu. She was the little sister of the golden dragon Di Shi. Even though Zhao Fu often used the Emperor Killing Sword, he did not have much contact with Diyu and did not say much to her. No matter how Zhao Fu used the Emperor Killing Sword, Diyu would fully cooperate without any hesitation. She often communicated with her big sister Di Shi. There were 10 swords, and they covered the heavens and earth, giving off different light. With the Zhao Fu statue at the center, terrifying auras continuously spread out, causing the heavens and earth to dim and clouds to swirl as the blood-red moon shone. There was a sword spirit standing on each of the 10 swords, and because they had been in the sword mark for a long time, they were quite familiar with each other. Zhao Fu controlled the statue to raise a hand, and the 10 sword spirits looked at each other and understood Zhao Fu's intentions. They closed their eyes and focused on controlling the swords below them. Shing, 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 the swords started to tremble and give off formless energy. The swords started to resonate and fuse into one. The statue raised its hand and grabbed at the sky. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the 10 swords gave off different sword lights, forming an enormous pillar of sword light that gave off world-destroying power as it slammed into the sky, causing a hole to appear in the sky. The surrounding heaven and earth power madly flowed in, and the destructive power that the pillar of sword light gave off seemed to cause the world to tremble. Cracks appeared in the sky, and the ground also trembled as cracks appeared. The heaven-toppling sword chi swept out, instantly inundating everything. In front of it, nothing could stop it, and everything was as small as an ant. The godly spirits all looked terrified as they continuously retreated. They could never have imagined that the power that Zhao Fu exploded out would be so terrifying. The heavens and earth seemed to collapse, and the world seemed to be unable to withstand that power. They had also underestimated Zhao Fu just now. They had refined their life-divine weapons, but it was impossible for them to create such a terrifying fluctuation. The residents nearby looked towards the horizon in terror. A massive pillar of light giving off all sorts of colors stood between the heavens and the earth, and a dense haze covered that place as a destructive aura continuously corroded their souls. The sky-toppling sword chi continued to spread out, quickly inundating worlds one after another. The air became cold and killing intent spread everywhere. All of the creatures here felt their hairs stand on end, and their bodies trembled in fear. The insects did not dare to make a single sound, the birds did not dare to fly into the sky, and the people on the ground did not dare to walk around. The residents were so scared that they hid in their rooms, and it was as if the world had lost all sound. The divine powers in the vicinity also felt the terrifying aura, and their expressions changed drastically. A trace of fear emerged in his heart. They knew that today was the day that the area next to them was celebrating the Battle God Festival, but why had such terrifying fluctuations erupted? Could it be that something major had happened to the Battle God Festival? For there to be such terrifying fluctuations, it was definitely not something ordinary. Regardless of their intentions, everyone quickly flew towards the horizon to see what was going on. The power of the heavens and the earth continued to surge into the pillar of light, and the terrifying fluctuations that the pillar of light emitted became stronger and stronger. The sky kept tearing and the ground kept collapsing. Some black lightning struck down and the wind howled. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. The 10 swords in the pillar of light absorbed the power of the heavens and the earth wantonly, and they began to truly transform. Before, Zhao Fu had only poured power into them, but now, he was making them truly fuse with power. That way, the power would be even stronger, and the 10 swords would be even more compatible with Zhao Fu. In the future, they would all be Zhao Fu's fate artifacts, and they would be closely connected to Zhao Fu. Even though Zhao Fu would become stronger, they would also be able to evolve. The other experts hurried over and looked at the sword pillar in shock. Now that they were so close, they could feel such terrifying fluctuations. The air became icy cold, and it felt as if it could cut through their skin. Their bodies continuously trembled. This power is simply too terrifying. At that moment, the various godly spirits noticed the godly spirits of the Battle God region retreating in terror and hurriedly asked, "Just what did you do? Why did you cause such a large fluctuation? Do you all want to die?" Another godly spirit said angrily, "This power is so terrifying, I'm sure you've done something that will pierce the heavens. You're courting death, but don't drag everyone else in." A godly spirit felt quite nervous and said, "That's right, just what happened. Why did such terrifying fluctuations erupt?" "We sensed it more than 10 worlds away. If there's any danger, we'll quickly evacuate." The godly spirits on the battle god's side looked quite innocent. They immediately opened their mouths to explain that this matter had nothing to do with them at all. They did not do anything terrible. Everything was caused by their war god this time. Moreover, they told the other godly spirits about what had happened. The other godly spirits did not believe them, and someone directly questioned them, "Don't lie to us. This is going to destroy the heavens and earth, and you're telling me that you're just tempering a fate artifact? Don't you think that's a bit fake?" The godly spirit on the battle god's side said with certainty, "Why would we lie to you? That person's identity and power are both extremely terrifying, and he's tempering a fate artifact to cause such terrifying fluctuations. If you really don't believe me, you can go and take a look for yourself. However, I'll warn you in advance that if you die there, don't blame us for not warning you. That place is no longer a place where humans can stay." Hearing this, the godly spirits started to believe them. However, just who was that person to cause such terrifying fluctuations? It was simply too terrifying. There was still some distance from the massive pillar of light, and they could already sense immense danger. They did not dare to go and take a look. If they were not careful and died there, they would not be able to take revenge against such a terrifying person, and they would even have to worry about him coming to find them. Everyone could only stay where they were and wait for things to end. The 10 swords floating in the sky started to slowly transform, and their power and grade rapidly increased. After a while, the transformation would be complete. Suddenly, Chapter 2007. This sword was the King of Kings' sword. Ever since Zhao Fu had obtained this sword, he had kept it in the sword mark because he did not know how to use it. Now that he had refined his fate weapon and established a connection with the King of Kings' sword, perhaps he would be able to use it. Right now, Zhao Fu had not even used the Emperor Killing Sword's full power, so it would be incredibly difficult for him to use the King of Kings' sword's power. As such, Zhao Fu had not been able to use the King of Kings' sword this entire time. If he did not try this time, the King of Kings' sword would just be sitting there, and he did not know when he would be able to use it again. The King of Kings' sword was Otherworld's most powerful supreme sword, and the power it contained was even more terrifying than the Emperor Killing Sword. If he used this sword at a crucial moment, it would have massive effects and could even reverse a situation. After making this decision, Zhao Fu waved his hand and a golden sword flew out from the sword mark on the back of his hand. Under Zhao Fu's control, it flew into the sky. The King of Kings' sword turned into a golden sword light and flew in front of the statue within the pillar of light, slightly trembling. Shing! A sword cry resounded in all directions, piercing through the clouds, shaking the 9 hells, and causing all living beings to submit to it. It was like a tangible sound wave that spread out, causing the world to tremble violently. The sun and moon lost their light, and the wind howled and thunder rumbled. Hearing this massive sword hum, the godly spirits in the distance felt quite startled and looked at the sword pillar in shock. It was not over yet? That person still held a sword. This sword was even more terrifying than the previous one. Everyone had been quite afraid of the previous one, and they felt that it was a peerlessly evil sword that could destroy the heavens and earth and slaughter all creatures. However, this sword gave off ripples that were even more powerful than the previous one. How was this possible? Just what kind of sword was this? Why did it have such terrifying power? It was definitely an extreme sword in the world. Moon Godya, Shen Xiaoi, and the others had already retreated far away. Seeing Zhao Fu take out the final sword, they fell into shock. At the same time, he was even more curious about Zhao Fu's identity. The power and things that Zhao Fu had displayed were definitely not that of an ordinary holy son. It was very likely that he was even more terrifying than a holy son, and he had many shocking secrets hidden on him. This was especially so for Shen Xiaoi. She had thought that her king-god bloodline was incredibly powerful, but in front of this power, she felt like it was nothing, and her heart took a heavy blow. The King of Kings' sword faced downwards and gave off a faint golden light as it floated in front of the statue. This sword was the Outlander race's King of Kings' sword, and it most likely fused with the Outlander's Supreme Emperor Star's power. The statue stretched out a hand towards the King of Kings' sword, and the Outlander Emperor Star in the formless void gave off intense green starlight. A massive wave of Outlander Emperor Star's power flowed out from the statue towards the King of Kings' sword. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the King of Kings' sword exploded out with boundless golden light, looking like a golden sun that shined in all directions. A world-destroying sword energy exploded out. Before the statue's Outlander Emperor Star's power could enter the sword, the statue's body started to crumble under the terrifying sword energy and turned into nothingness. The sky-reaching sword pillar was also greatly affected. From a distance, it looked like a golden sun had suddenly appeared at the center of the pillar of light, and the terrifying ripples that the sword pillar gave off started to weaken. Everyone looked quite surprised. They felt that something had happened when that person was tempering the final sword. However, this sword was quite terrifying. In the hands of that terrifying existence, it could not be controlled at all. Zhao Fu, who was sitting cross-legged within the God Palace, frowned. The statue he had condensed had been directly destroyed by that sword. The King of Kings' sword seemed to reject other powers. It did not reject the Outlander Emperor Star's power but the statue's divine power. Moreover, it seemed to reject being a fate god weapon, perhaps because it was the Outlander race's King of Kings armament and not the god race's god weapon. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu felt a headache. Facing this King of Kings sword, Zhao Fu felt quite helpless. However, the 10 swords were spread out and gave off massive sword energy, forming a shocking sword pillar that gathered boundless heaven and earth power. The statue had been destroyed by the King of Kings sword, but Zhao Fu could try to see if he could refine the King of Kings sword. Zhao Fu flew out from the God Palace and came to the center of the King of Kings sword. The King of Kings sword floated in the air and gave off a blinding golden light, making it look like a golden sun. Zhao Fu flew into the golden sun and stretched out a hand and gripped the hilt of the King of Kings sword. This time, the King of Kings sword did not reject Zhao Fu because it acknowledged him. However, for some reason, Zhao Fu could not use it. Now that Zhao Fu held this sword, he felt like he was holding a wooden sword without any power. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to stop the sword pillar's power for now. By now, the 10 swords had gone through changes and obtained great power. After receiving Zhao Fu's order, they stopped giving off power. After the 10 swords' power dissipated, the terrifying sword pillar gradually shrank. The abnormal signs disappeared and the surroundings became peaceful again. Is it over? Seeing the sword pillar disappear and the surroundings become peaceful again, everyone let out a sigh of relief, and their nervous and fearful expressions also eased. That power had been incredibly terrifying, and countless people felt as if everything was going to be destroyed. Now that the terrifying shockwaves had stopped, everyone hurried over. They wanted to know just who had caused such a massive shockwave. That person was most likely extremely noble, and was not someone they could come into contact with. They just went over to take a look and did not dare to have any ill intentions. If they could interact with such an existence, they might receive unimaginable benefit. The godly spirits in the war god land felt quite regretful. If they had known that Zhao Fu was such a terrifying existence, they would have tried to curry favor with him, and even made him the war god. Apart from them, the moon god Sprout's people also hurried over. It was evident that something had happened for the sword pillar to disappear, and they were worried that something had happened to Zhao Fu. The 10 swords that were hundreds of meters long silently floated in the air and gave off different colored light. With Zhao Fu at the center, they formed a massive circle. Zhao Fu's expression was serious as he held the King of Kings sword at the center and slowly raised it. Now, only the Outlander Emperor stars could fuse into the King of Kings sword's power. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu's body gave off an intense green light and he turned into a ray of light as he shot into the sky, causing the sky to tremble as a formless energy spread out. Boom! Chapter 2008. Countless traces of green starlight shot out from the cracks and flashed past mountains, rivers, cities, grass, and trees, covering many worlds. An enormous green star giving off a boundless aura slowly descended from the sky. The heavens and earth seemed to sink as an unimaginable pressure descended. A powerful, chaotic, ferocious, and noble aura was incredibly dense, and it continuously flooded out, easily inundating everything. All of the immortals flying forward were astonished, and their bodies slowly came to a halt as they stared blankly at the massive azure star. This is an Outlander Supreme Emperor star. Massive waves crashed in everyone's hearts. They had never thought that a Supreme Emperor star would appear. Just what sort of existence was that person? Only a few people in every race had a Supreme Emperor star, and each person was an apex existence in the world. And yet, that person had one. His identity did not need to be explained. He was definitely one of the most prestigious people in the Outlander race. The moon god Sprout's people looked incredibly shocked. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would have another Supreme Emperor star. Just what other terrifying things were Zhao Fu hiding? Boom! A massive explosion sounded out, breaking everyone's thoughts. That massive green star gave off boundless green starlight and turned into a green pillar of light that gave off a massive aura and landed on Zhao Fu's body. Boundless Outlander Emperor star power continuously flowed into Zhao Fu's King of Kings sword. After absorbing the Outlander Emperor star power, the King of Kings sword slightly trembled and gave off a faint golden light as if a dead sword was slowly awakening. Zhao Fu could not help but feel delighted. This method was indeed useful. As it absorbed more and more Outlander Emperor stars, the golden light that the King of Kings sword gave off became stronger and stronger, and the sword energy it gave off became stronger and stronger until it reached a peak. Boom! Zhao Fu grasped this opportunity and sent a massive wave of divine bloodline power into the King of Kings sword. The King of Kings sword exploded out with immense power and gave off blinding golden light. The 10 swords floating in the surroundings all gave off intense light and exploded out with a formless energy. They once again gathered the heaven and earth power and madly gathered here. Boom! The 10 swords gave off a sword light with the King of Kings sword at the center as the heaven and earth power madly flowed in, forming a massive golden sword light that gave off destructive power as it shot into the sky, giving off a shocking explosion. As the golden sword light slammed into the sky, a golden shockwave containing unimaginably terrifying power blasted out like a bolt of lightning, instantly sweeping through thousands of worlds. Nothing could stop it, and countless layers of clouds were turned into nothingness. The sky became golden, and a noble, powerful, and terrifying aura spread out. Countless creatures felt a powerful might. At that moment, the expressions of the countless experts at the center of the godly world fell as they looked in that direction. The King of Kings sword? Someone couldn't help asking. Wasn't the King of Kings sword sealed within Outlander 10 College after the first King of Kings died? How could it suddenly appear in the godly realm? The second King of Kings has appeared. How could you not know about such a big matter? This matter has caused a massive commotion in the heaven-awakened world, and countless higher beings have participated. A world-destroying battle has almost erupted. Then why has the second King of Kings appeared in the godly realm? Could it be related to the god competition? Otherwise, I can't think of anything that could draw out the second King of Kings. If that's the case, I want to see just what kind of person the second King of Kings is. He has caused a massive commotion in the heaven-awakened world, and I heard that he has 6 Emperor stars. If I didn't see it for myself, I wouldn't believe it. That's right. I also want to see what kind of existence the second King of Kings is for him to cause such a commotion and for the entire heaven-awakened world to be searching for him. Boom! Boom! The many terrifying experts did not hesitate at all, and they gave off powerful auras as they quickly flew towards the horizon. Some wanted to see what Zhao Fu looked like, while others wanted to kill Zhao Fu because they understood the threat that Zhao Fu posed. Some wanted to steal the King of Kings sword, which was a sovereign-grade sword and was many times more powerful than any immortal weapon. The countless Outlander race experts suddenly felt their blood boil, and their blood quickly flowed through their bodies. Their hearts started to vigorously beat, and their expressions fell as they looked up at the sky. They could sense the King of Kings sword's power descending from the sky. After so long, this was the first time there had been news of the King of Kings sword. Back then, the second King of Kings had disappeared with the sword, and no one had been able to find him. They had never thought that he would appear in the godly realm. Thinking about the second King of Kings, the Outlander experts could not help but think back to when the 6 Emperor stars had descended, causing the heavens and earth to collapse, yin and yang to reverse, and gods, demons, and humans to retreat. Thinking about that, everyone felt quite shocked. The second King of Kings was definitely the most terrifying existence they had ever seen. Even the Sun Elf, who had the Supreme Emperor's star, had fallen at his hands. Everyone could still remember that shocking battle, and he had used his own strength to win. In the end, he had defeated the Outlander race's holy son and obtained the King of Kings' sword. The second King of Kings could be called a legendary figure. It was just a pity that he had another race's Emperor's star and bloodline, or else the entire Outlander race would have supported him at all costs and allowed him to lead the Outlander race to glory again. Now that the King of Kings' sword had exploded out with such terrifying ripples, it was possible that the second King of Kings was about to awaken the King of Kings' sword. Everyone felt quite complicated. Some people were incredibly excited because that person was the second King of Kings. In the future, with the King of Kings' sword, he would be able to kill gods and Buddhas, and he would be able to destroy all creatures. He would lead the Outlander race to the peak of the world. Some people were worried and afraid because that person was not truly from the Outlander race and might not bring any benefits to the Outlander race. It was possible that he could use the King of Kings' sword to turn the entire Outlander race upside down and never have peace again. Most people belonged to the second group, because that person did not know what race he was from and the Outlander race had not given him anything. In fact, many people had wanted to kill him back then. Chapter 2009. The Outlander Emperor's star had already disappeared into the sky, and the golden light formed a massive pillar of light that stood in the heavens and earth. It was many times larger than before, and terrifying ripples continuously spread out like floodwaters. Under these terrifying ripples, everyone's hands and feet felt icy cold, as if they were in icy water, and their bodies could not help but tremble. The godly spirits who had rushed up hurriedly retreated in fear. In that moment, they felt the threat of death. How could there be such terrifying power in this world? Just who was that person? The 10 swords merged into one and continuously gathered heaven and earth power, sending it into the King of Kings' sword. The King of Kings' sword gave off an even more intense golden light, and its awakening state became more and more intense. Zhao Fu raised the sword with one hand and a wild gale blew on his cloak, causing it to flutter. Arg! Understanding that this was the final moment, Zhao Fu roared and sent all of his divine bloodline's power into the King of Kings' sword. Boom! The King of Kings' sword gave off an even more intense sword light and exploded out with shocking power as it gave off a massive explosion. Shing! A massive sword hum sounded out as the King of Kings' sword seemed to have awakened and gave off boundless sword light, devouring heaven and earth power. Boom! A deafening roar rang out, and the huge golden pillar of light that stood between the heavens and the earth became even larger than before. The heavens and earth continuously trembled as space and the ground continuously collapsed. It was as if the apocalypse had arrived, and a terrifying aura covered everything, causing countless people to fall into terror. Suddenly, at the center of the golden pillar of light, above the King of Kings' sword, a figure giving off a powerful aura slowly appeared. It was a woman who was tall and slim and had well-toned muscles. Her skin was a faint blood-red color, and she had short, blood-red hair and a pair of golden pupils. She was only wearing beast skins, and she gave off a wild and ferocious aura. This woman was most likely the King of Kings' sword's sword spirit, and under Zhao Fu's immense power, she had awoken from her slumber. After the sword spirit appeared, she stared at Zhao Fu, most likely sizing up Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu held the King of Kings' sword and did not feel any fear. He looked at the sword spirit and the two of them stared at each other. After a while, the sword spirit lightly laughed and said, "Even though you're not bad, you're far from my previous master. However, since you've pulled out the 10,000 god sword and awakened me, you can become the second King of Kings." Zhao Fu did not mind and said, I'm not interested in the second King of Kings, but you need to understand that I'm your master. The sword spirit said with a provocative smile, that will depend on your performance in the future. If you don't have the ability, I will be the first to kill you. At that time, even if you beg me, it will be useless. If you are not the strongest expert in the world, you are not worthy of using me. Zhao Fu frowned and looked a little unhappy. The King of Kings' sword's temper was quite great. Even though it had only acknowledged him temporarily, it could betray him in the future. This sword's power was incredibly terrifying, and thinking about that, a trace of coldness appeared in Zhao Fu's eyes. You think I have no way to deal with you? I hate it when people dare to provoke me, even if you're the King of Kings' sword's sword spirit. The sword spirit stood above Zhao Fu and looked quite condescending as she said, with your divine realm power? Or the Outlander race's supreme Emperor star? I can ignore the former, but I'm not afraid of the latter. Zhao Fu did not say anything else and sent a massive wave of power into the sword in his hand. The sword spirit immediately felt a wave of power wanting to pull her into the King of Kings' sword. The sword spirit disdainfully laughed and said, even though you're holding the King of Kings' sword, don't forget that I'm the sword spirit. Looks like it's time to teach you a lesson and let you know what's wrong. Shing, 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 the sword spirit smiled and grabbed at Zhao Fu. The King of Kings' sword in Zhao Fu's hand continuously trembled, trying to break free from Zhao Fu's grasp. However, in the next moment, the sword spirit's expression fell. 6 lychee-sized orbs of different colored light appeared around Zhao Fu, giving off different Emperor Stars' power. The 6 orbs of light moved to the side and formed a circle around the sword. Boom! The 6 orbs of light gave off intense light and exploded out with a formless power, locking down the King of Kings' sword. The sword spirit felt her body being locked down by this power. The sword spirit looked at Zhao Fu in shock and said, how can you use the power of 6 Emperor Stars? Zhao Fu lightly harumphed and said, why should I tell you? I already said that I don't have the power to deal with you. Even without the power of 6 Emperor Stars, I could use the King of Kings' sword's legacy to control you. Now that you've awakened, I've obtained the final control over the King of Kings' sword and obtained the first-generation King of Kings' item's legacy power. Zhao Fu had just discovered this, and after sending his power into the King of Kings' sword, he obtained all of its information. The sword spirit's expression was quite unsightly as she glared at Zhao Fu and said, what do you want to do with me? Zhao Fu smirked and gave a trace of a mocking smile as he said, so you know fear? However, I'll properly teach you a lesson later and show you who your master is. The sword spirit said angrily, do you think I'm afraid of you? I want to see how you'll deal with me. Don't forget that as the King of Kings' sword spirit, if I'm damaged in any way, the King of Kings' sword will also be damaged. Zhao Fu did not reply and gave a trace of an evil smile, causing the sword spirit to feel quite panicked. Zhao Fu casually swung the King of Kings' sword and sent the sword spirit into it. This sword spirit's background was not simple at all, and Zhao Fu planned to properly deal with it later. Now that the King of Kings' sword had successfully awakened, the sword pillar's power gradually dissipated, and the heavens and earth became peaceful again. The 10 swords' power dissipated, and the hundreds of meter-long swords started to return to their original appearances. Master, I missed you so much. Why did you keep me locked up in the sword seal? The evil dragon leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace and looked at Zhao Fu resentfully as its hands roamed all over Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu rolled his eyes and said, go back into the sword first. I'll take care of your matters later. Zhao Fu understood that the ripples he had caused here were quite great, so he had to immediately leave this place. He could not hesitate, or else if those truly terrifying figures arrived, he would not be able to leave. The evil dragon coquettishly laughed and kissed Zhao Fu as she said seductively, all right, master, I'll wait for you. Following this, the evil dragon returned to the sword, and the other sword spirits also returned. Zhao Fu waved his hand and sent all of the swords into the sword seal. He then used his senses to find where Moon God Bud and the others were. Chapter 2010. Boom. Boom. A few hours later, waves of terrifying auras descended, and some terrifying experts arrived. Even though they could not divine where Zhao Fu was, they could find him based on the direction of the abnormalities. Seeing the terrifying experts descend, the godly spirits felt quite nervous and understood how terrifying this matter was. The powerful experts did not discover Zhao Fu, so they turned their gazes to the godly spirit. Facing so many terrifying existences, the godly spirits naturally did not dare to hide anything and told the experts what had happened. Right now, staying alive was the most important thing. That person had caused terrifying ripples that had drawn over so many terrifying figures. It was quite shocking. After hearing that Zhao Fu had left a few hours ago, the experts could only sigh and dejectedly return. If they could not capture this sort of person immediately, it would be very difficult to capture him in the future. Moreover, they had left for a few hours, so it was almost impossible to capture that person. After they left, even more terrifying experts descended with terrifying auras. They could only return in disappointment like the experts from before. With their strength, they were unable to find Zhao Fu. The godly spirits here all felt quite terrified as they looked at the experts continuously descending. It seemed that the ripples caused by that person far surpassed what they had imagined. This was because they did not know what that terrifying sword was, nor did they know who the owner of that sword was. No matter if it was the King of Kings' sword or Zhao Fu himself, they were all world-shaking people, which was why they had attracted so many terrifying figures to descend. In the end, most of the experts returned. Only a small number of people did not give up and continued to search for Zhao Fu and the others. After traveling for a few hours, Zhao Fu and the others stopped. Because they were pressed for time, they did not even bring their carriages, and they had to fly to escape from that place. Now that they were quite far away from the Battle God faction, they could relax and not worry about those terrifying figures finding them. They stopped on a hill. The first thing Zhao Fu did was look at Xin Xiaoyi and her two guards. Her two guards immediately sensed Zhao Fu's intentions and pulled Xin Xiaoyi away. They had never thought that the amicable Zhao Fu would become so merciless. Clang, clang, clang. Zhao Fu's golden pupils quickly spun as chains containing immense power shot out from the ground and quickly bound up the three people. Just as everyone stopped and had not even caught their breath, they saw Zhao Fu suddenly attack Xin Xiaoyi and the others, and they could not react in time. Xin Xiaoyi immediately cried out angrily, "You bastard, hurry and let me go!" The two guards' expressions became quite unsightly. They understood why Zhao Fu had captured them, and they said, "Sir, what are you waiting for?" They said, "Sir, don't worry, we definitely won't reveal your identity." The reason Zhao Fu had captured them was to prevent their identities from being exposed. Before, Zhao Fu did not care, but because of the commotion he had caused in that region, his identity had been exposed. These three people were no longer under Zhao Fu's control, and it was possible that they could harm him, so Zhao Fu had acted against them. Seeing that Zhao Fu had suddenly captured Xin Xiaoyi and the others, Moon God Sprout immediately said, "Don't harm them." This was because Moon God Sprout greatly liked Xin Xiaoyi, and Xin Xiaoyi greatly trusted her. She did not want Zhao Fu to harm the three of them, and she hoped that they could get along peacefully. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he looked at Xin Xiaoyi and the others and said, "I won't harm them, you don't have to worry about that." Hearing this, Moon God Sprout felt at ease. Zhao Fu looked at Xin Xiaoyi and the others and smiled as he said, "Right now, you only have one choice, which is to submit to me. Now, you all understand that my identity is not something that a mere king god can compare to. If you're willing to submit to me, I won't mistreat you." The two guards, Wu Wu and Wu Yi, looked at Shen Xiaoyi. She was their master, and no matter what decision she made, they would abide by it. Moreover, apart from submitting to Zhao Fu, they had no other choice because they did not have the strength to resist Zhao Fu. Shen Xiaoyi angrily glared at Zhao Fu and did not say anything. Looking at her, Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "You can choose not to submit, but don't blame me for using my god-killing power against you." Shen Xiaoyi was only a few years old, and she had personally witnessed how terrifying Zhao Fu's god-killing power was, so she immediately looked quite afraid. At that moment, Moon God Sprout came up and said, "Xiaoyi, it's best if you submit to him. With me here, he won't bully you in the future." Shen Xiaoyi hesitated, and after thinking for a while, she angrily replied, "All right. For Big Sis' sake, I'll submit to you. Also, if you don't treat Big Sis and me well, I'll definitely teach you a lesson." Seeing that Shen Xiaoyi had submitted to Zhao Fu, the two guards did not have any objections and were willing to submit to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu gave a satisfied smile and waved his hand, causing 3 waves of power to flow into the 3 people's bodies and turn into restrictions. The man used the demonic power, while the woman used the 6 desires demonic qi. This caused Fog 5 to be completely fine, while Shen Xiaoyi and Wui's faces became red and their breathing sped up. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised that Shen Xiaoyi, who was so young, had such a big reaction. Moon God Sprout turned and angrily glared at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smiled and waved his hand, sending out a wave of power that sealed the 3 waves of power within his body. Moreover, he removed the countless chains, and the 3 people regained their freedom. Shen Xiaoyi and Wui's expressions also returned to normal. Shen Xiaoyi leapt into Moon God Sprout's embrace and glared at Zhao Fu in embarrassment as she said coquettishly, "Scoundrel! Perverted thief!" Moon God Sprout lightly laughed. She knew how powerful Zhao Fu's power was. At that moment, the Luo family's 3 brothers came up and respectfully bowed as they said, "Sir, we're all your servants and will never betray you. Can you tell us your identity now?" Everyone's gazes gathered on Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's identity was undoubtedly what everyone was most curious about, and if they could not figure it out, they would feel quite uncomfortable. This was because the shockwaves that Zhao Fu had caused were simply too great. If it was before, they could endure it, but now, even if the Luo family's 3 brothers did not go up and ask, they would have asked just what sort of terrifying existence Zhao Fu was. Hearing this, Zhao Fu looked around and smiled as he said, "All right then, I'll tell you my identity." Everyone immediately looked delighted. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would agree so easily. They heard Zhao Fu continue to speak. Chapter 2011. Everyone looked quite confused and could not understand Zhao Fu's words. Zhao Fu saying that he had an early-stage divine bloodline caused everyone's hearts to tremble and look incredibly shocked. An early-stage divine bloodline was a bloodline that could only be obtained by establishing a holy kingdom. The person in front of them was not a holy son but the founder of a holy kingdom. This was simply too shocking, and hearing this, everyone could not help but want to kneel. However, hearing that he was the king of a small kingdom, everyone instinctively did not believe this. After all, how could an ordinary kingdom have a divine bloodline, let alone an early-stage divine bloodline? However, since Zhao Fu had already said that he had an early-stage divine bloodline, there was no need for him to say that he was from a small kingdom to deceive them. Everyone could not figure it out. However, hearing Zhao Fu's words, everyone was once again shocked. That golden sword was the Outlander race's supreme sword? God Moon Sprout asked in shock. That final sword was the King of Kings' sword? That's the most terrifying thing in the world. It's said that anyone with this sword can rule the entire Outlander race and become the supreme existence of the Outlander race. No one will dare to disobey them. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "It's not that exaggerated. Back when I obtained the King of Kings' sword, There were many Outlander experts who wanted to take it. They won't listen to you. These words meant that he admitted that the sword was the King of Kings' sword. Everyone looked at Zhao Fu in shock. That was the Outlander race's most noble and terrifying thing. And now, it was in Zhao Fu's hands. Shen Xiaoyi lay within Moon Sprout's embrace and said in shock, "I don't believe that you're the king of a small kingdom. A king of a small kingdom can't have an early-stage divine bloodline or the Outlander race's supreme sword. That's right. It's impossible for you to have the Outlander race's supreme Emperor Star. How could a king of a small kingdom have such things? Just who are you? No matter what, we're all mentally prepared." Hearing Shen Xiaoyi's words, everyone could not help but nod, agreeing with what she said. Zhao Fu chuckled, "Perhaps I'm an exception. I'm really the leader of a faction that hasn't even reached the level of a kingdom. I didn't lie to you. This is my true identity. Now you know it." Everyone still did not believe it. After all, how could the leader of a small faction have a supreme Emperor Star, early generation divine bloodline, and the King of Kings' sword? However, looking at Zhao Fu's expression, he didn't seem to be lying to them. Now, they really didn't understand what was going on. The only thing that was clear was that Zhao Fu was not an ordinary person. He had the supreme Emperor Star, divine bloodline, and King of Kings' sword. A person only needed to have one of those to become the most terrifying person in the world. At this time, Zhao Fu had 3 items. His future was unimaginable. Thinking about that, everyone gave a trace of a smile. The more powerful the person they followed, the more benefits they would receive. Being able to follow Zhao Fu was definitely the most fortunate thing in their lives. After hearing about Zhao Fu's identity, everyone felt at ease. However, they felt that Zhao Fu was hiding many secrets. Zhao Fu did not finish speaking, so they could not continue asking. However, at that moment, everyone's gazes turned to the moon god Sprout because they heard from Zhao Fu that his goal was not only to collect godly spirit power, but also to collect the 10 Yin energies for the moon god Sprout to awaken the 10 Yin celestial body. 10 Yin celestial body. Hearing this, everyone felt quite startled. This was a celestial body, and the moon god Sprout in front of them could become a celestial who could control the fate of countless worlds in the future. He was not someone they could come into contact with. Now everyone could accept this. No wonder the moon god Sprout was so beautiful. It was someone who could become a celestial in the future. The ones who were the most shocked were the 3 Luo brothers. They had only accepted money to kill people, and only now did they find out that the person they killed actually had the 10 Yin immortal physique. Now, they rejoiced that Zhao Fu had stopped them. The moon god Sprout had such a terrifying constitution and would not be easy to kill. Perhaps it would use the 10 Yin immortal body's power when it encountered danger. At that time, they would definitely be the ones to die. At the same time, they also thought about the faction that issued the mission. They reckoned that they would be in trouble in the future. Even though it was a powerful kingdom-level faction, because the moon god Sprout was Zhao Fu's woman, it had already offended a terrifying existence like Zhao Fu and would definitely be destroyed in the future. Moreover, even without Zhao Fu, just the moon god Sprout's power would be enough to easily destroy it. Shen Xiaoyi giggled as she hugged the moon god Sprout. "I knew Big Sister wasn't simple. There's a powerful power attracting me. So that's the power of the 10 Yin immortal body. Big Sister, from now on, you'll be my big sister." Facing everyone's gazes, the moon god Sprout felt a bit embarrassed and lightly laughed as she said, "All right, little sister." By the side, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and asked, "Why is the 10 Yin immortal body attracting you?" Only then did everyone realize why the 10 Yin immortal body attracted Shen Xiaoyi. If there was no relationship, it would be impossible. Shen Xiaoyi gave a pleased smile as she said, "It's because I have divine Yin energy, one of the 10 great Yin energies. Within the countless Yin energies, divine Yin energy and physical body energy are the rarest. In the end, divine yin energy is even rarer than physical body energy. Zhao Fu felt quite delighted. He had never thought that such a rare yin energy, which took so much time to find, would appear in front of him without paying any price at all. Fortunately, he had left Xin Xiaoyi and the others behind, or else he would have missed out on a divine yin energy and would have taken a long time to find it. Right now, within the 10 great yin energies, there were only physical body and profound yin energy. If he could gather both of them, he would be able to awaken the 10 yin immortal body for the moon god sprout. Zhao Fu felt great anticipation towards this 10 yin immortal body and wanted to see what changes there would be after the moon god sprout truly awakened. Zhao Fu walked in front of Xin Xiaoyi and grabbed her little hand, sending a wave of energy into her body. Xin Xiaoyi had said that she had divine yin energy within her body, so Zhao Fu naturally wanted to see if she had it or if she fulfilled the requirements to awaken it. After checking, the results were that Xin Xiaoyi's divine yin energy was much stronger than other yin energies, but it was still weaker than Yi Lan Shi's darkness yin energy. Right now, Zhao Fu did not know what was going on with Yi Lan Shi. Chapter 2012. Zhao Fu took out the King of Kings sword and waved his hand. Rays of light shot out from the sword mark and turned into figures. They were sword spirits. The evil dragon flirtatiously smiled and leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace as she called out, "Master." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before raising the King of Kings sword. The King of Kings sword gave off a golden light as a figure appeared in front of Zhao Fu. It was the King of Kings sword's sword spirit. This sword spirit's background was not simple at all. Because the situation had been quite tense, he had not been able to deal with this matter in time. Now that he was out of danger, Zhao Fu wanted to deal with the King of Kings sword. First of all, this sword spirit was no ordinary sword spirit. Rather, it was someone from the Origin race. The Origin race was the most ancient race in the world. Not only did they know the mysteries of opening the heavens and earth, but they also had the power to reverse yin and yang and destroy the heavens and earth. Even true celestials feared their existence. It was just that the Origin race had disappeared for many years, and they had not existed since the immemorial era. They were many times rarer than even celestials. The reason why Zhao Fu was able to have his current accomplishments was because of one person's help, which was Tuoba Qing. Back then, she had given Zhao Fu an important origin mark, allowing him to awaken the celestial Emperor Star and slowly awaken the other Emperor Stars. Tuoba Qing was from the Origin race and had disappeared for many years. The sword in front of him was from the Origin race, and the King of Kings sword had an Origin race Outlander's soul as its sword spirit. Just thinking about this made anyone feel terrified. Even if it was just an ordinary iron sword, as long as it fused with an Origin race Outlander's soul, it would instantly possess god-slaying, demon-slaying, world-destroying power. What's more, the King of Kings sword was not simple at all. It was forged from an Origin race Outlander's rare body and had fused with the source energy of countless worlds. Finally, it had an Origin race Outlander as its sword spirit. This power was already unimaginable. It was a type of terror that surpassed imagination. The King of Kings sword's power could be said to be in the top 3 in the Heaven Awakened world, including the God world and Underworld. Celestial weapons and world weapons were much weaker in front of it. Back then, the first King of Kings had held a sword and led the entire Outlander race, forcing the other 7 races to retreat. They did not dare to face him head-on and could only avoid him. One could imagine how terrifying this sword was. However, the King of Kings was not simple. This terrifying King of Kings sword had been personally forged by him. Now that Zhao Fu had obtained the King of Kings legacy, he knew some information, but it was not complete. From the start, the King of Kings had just been an ordinary person and had not been born a king. He did not have any terrifying bloodline or a terrifying identity, and he seemed quite ordinary. but he was adopted by a mysterious person when he was young. Zhao Fu did not know if this mysterious person was male or female, but he treated the King of Kings very well. Not only did he raise the King of Kings, but he also taught him many things and told him that he had an important mission since he was young. The King of Kings' sword had been forged with the mysterious person's help, or else the King of Kings would not have been able to do this. Back then, the King of Kings was still young and was not as powerful as he was now. He could not obtain those outlander peerless materials, nor could he obtain the origin race's soul. As such, he could not forge the King of Kings' sword by himself. This King of Kings' sword had accompanied him for his entire life, from when he had first come out to go out and train until his death. The King of Kings had completed his mission and led the Outlander race to unprecedented glory. It was an era that the Outlander race was most proud of. After that mysterious person nurtured the King of Kings, he did not appear again. After becoming famous, the King of Kings had searched for him many times, but he had not been able to find any information. It was as if that person did not exist. From how Zhao Fu saw it, that person was definitely from the origin race, and he was definitely not an ordinary origin race. Otherwise, he would not have been able to nurture such a terrifying figure like the King of Kings. Moreover, that mysterious person had given the King of Kings' origin mark, so the King of Kings' bloodline was most likely from that origin bloodline. After all, only with an origin mark could one raise their bloodline to an origin bloodline, and the process was incredibly difficult. However, the King of Kings had been the most dazzling person of that era, so he had definitely raised his bloodline to an origin bloodline. Zhao Fu understood how difficult this was because he had awakened 6 Emperor stars and many spirit medicines to raise his bloodline to a divine bloodline. However, he was still some distance away from an origin bloodline. What was quite strange was that the King of Kings, who had such terrifying strength and had an origin mark, only had 1,500 years of lifespan. This was quite strange. Ordinary world realm experts had 1,000 years of lifespan, but the king of the Outlander race, someone who even Celestials had to avoid, only had 1,500 years of lifespan. This did not make sense. However, the King of Kings' sword did not have many records of this, so Zhao Fu did not know what had happened and why the King of Kings only had such a short lifespan. From the perspective of the other races, this was an incredibly good thing. If the first King of Kings did not die, the other 7 races would not be able to rise up. If the King of Kings had lived a bit longer, perhaps he would have been able to destroy the other 7 races and unify the entire world. This was not an exaggeration. If the King of Kings was given some time to develop, he would definitely be able to do this. During this period of time, the other races could only worry in fear. Facing the unity of the entire race, they were not a match for him at all and could only passively defend. Back then, in order to stop the King of Kings from unifying the world, countless people had used all sorts of methods, both in the open and in the dark. As long as they achieved their goal, they would not hold back at all. In actuality, the King of Kings had wanted to unify the entire world. After all, unifying the Outlander race was only the first part of his mission. Unifying the entire world was his final mission. When that time came, he would have become the only king in the world, and no one would have been able to compare to him. If he had succeeded, the Heaven-awakened world would have been completely different. It was a pity that the King of Kings had died too early, and after he died, no one had the ability to inherit his position. Adding on the fact that the other races had allied together to invade and sow discord, the incredibly powerful Outlander race had collapsed like a mountain, becoming what it was now. The position of the King of Kings was incredibly difficult to inherit. Back then, even the Outlander Holy Sun and the possessor of the Outlander Emperor Star had not been able to draw the King of Kings' sword and obtain the King of Kings' legacy. If it wasn't for Zhao Fu, he might have had to wait countless years. Zhao Fu found that he was somewhat similar to the King of Kings, Everything was related to the origin race. Chapter 2013. Zhao Fu looked at the King of Kings' sword spirit and asked seriously, "Who is that mysterious person? And who are you? As a noble person from the origin race, you shouldn't be a sword spirit." The sword spirit lightly harumphed. "Do you think I'll tell you? I don't like you anymore, so I won't listen to you. It's best if you send me back to Outlander 10 College, or else you'll regret it." Zhao Fu's expression was cold and he did not say anything else. The golden pupil in his left eye quickly spun and a formless energy spread out. A few chains quickly shot out and bound the sword spirit's hands and feet. They hung her in the air and pulled, causing her body to stretch. The sword spirit glared at Zhao Fu and said angrily, "What do you want to do to me?" Zhao Fu's expression was cold and he did not reply. The evil dragon flirtatiously laughed as she said, "We're going to let you enjoy extreme torture. Submit to our master. Our master won't mistreat you." The sword spirit frowned and did not understand what the evil dragon was saying. Why did it sound like torture? At that moment, a massive wave of 6 desires demonic chi came out of Zhao Fu's palm and flowed into the King of Kings' sword. Immediately, the sword spirit felt a formless energy spread out within her body, causing her body to become soft and hot. Her face became bright red and she started to pant. Now that the sword spirit understood what the evil dragon was saying, she cursed angrily, "You bastard, why did he choose a perverted bandit like you to be the second King of Kings? This is an insult. Hurry and stop, you bastard." Zhao Fu was expressionless and ignored the sword spirit as he continuously sent the 6 desires demonic chi into the sword. Soon, the sword spirit was covered with sweat and her body twisted in the air, uncontrollably giving off indescribable sounds. The 6 desires celestial art was indeed powerful. It was effective on any woman. Seeing Zhao Fu use this method to torture the King of Kings' sword spirit, the other sword spirits' faces became slightly red, and their beautiful eyes fell on Zhao Fu's body. The evil dragon hugged Zhao Fu and asked seductively, "Master, you've already pampered so many women, why don't you pamper us sword spirits as well? We'll always be by your side. Whenever you need us, we'll be there for you." Zhao Fu rolled his eyes at her and replied, "I can't do that. Also, my cultivation technique is restricted, so I can't do these things." The evil dragon was unhappy. "Why? Also, does it mean that you can pamper us just because you have a breakthrough in your cultivation technique? Now that we're all your people, you can't not take responsibility for us. You don't know that every time you use us, we suffer." Zhao Fu was quite startled. His cultivation technique was the 6 desires celestial art, so it naturally contained the 6 desires demonic chi's power. When using weapons, he had to infuse power into them. He raised his head and scanned his surroundings. The sky demon gave a faint flirtatious smile, the wood sword spirit's face was red, the slaughtering ghost sword felt slightly embarrassed, the corpse soul sword's eyes were filled with a trace of anticipation, and even the emperor killing sword gave a faint smile and did not refute the evil dragon's words. Zhao Fu felt quite helpless and could only say, "We'll see in the future." The evil dragon immediately smiled and happily kissed Zhao Fu a few times. This time, Zhao Fu did not directly refuse. Her goal had greatly advanced. By now, the King Sword Spirit could not take it anymore and started to beg Zhao Fu for mercy. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and stopped infusing the 6 desires demonic chi. The King Sword Spirit slowly returned to normal and glared at Zhao Fu as it said angrily and embarrassedly, "You bastard, perverted thief, trash, put me down!" Zhao Fu's smile faded and he frowned as he said, "Do you want to experience that feeling again?" The King Sword Spirit said angrily, "I know that you cultivate the 6 desires celestial art, and I know 6 desires celestial. My master owes her a favor, and if she finds out that you dare to treat me like this, she'll definitely punish you. When that time comes, you won't have a good time either. Zhao Fu felt quite startled. This King Sword Spirit seemed to know Six Desires Celestial, the person who had created the Six Desires Celestial art. The Golden Dragon, Di Shi, felt quite shocked. The Six Desires Celestial art was the Heaven Murder Empire's most terrifying emperor, and he had obtained it after entering the Six Desires Celestial Palace. Six Desires Celestial was one of the most powerful celestials of that era and had left behind many terrifying legends. Even now, there were still people who knew her name and feared her power. Zhao Fu cultivated the Six Desires Celestial art and had seen how terrifying its power was. However, now that the King Sword Spirit said that it knew Six Desires Celestial and had a great relationship with her, it made her seem much older than the Heaven Murder Empire, let alone Zhao Fu. Di Shi said seriously, "This sword is from the Origin race and is related to Six Desires Celestial. It's best to handle this matter carefully." Zhao Fu felt a headache. Things had become even more complicated. So many years had passed, and Six Desires Celestial most likely no longer existed. However, why did the King Sword Spirit say that Six Desires Celestial would punish him? He definitely could not let the Sword Spirit see that he was wary of her, or else she would become even more arrogant, making it even more impossible for him to suppress her. Zhao Fu asked calmly, "You know Six Desires Celestial? However, I'm not her legatee. I'm just cultivating her art. She doesn't seem to care what I do to you." The King Sword Spirit coldly harumphed, "Do you think I'd lie to you? I already said that she owes my master a favor, and whenever she sees my master, she treats him politely and treats him like an elder. She wouldn't behave like you. Also, even if you're not her legatee, you're cultivating her art, so you're related to her. Don't think that Six Desires Celestial is dead. She's alive and well, just not in this world. She can find you and punish you." After so many years, Six Desires Celestial is still not dead? Hearing this, Di Shi, Diyu, and Zhao Fu could not help but feel quite shocked. Just how many years had this monster lived for? Her legatee, the Heaven Murder Emperor, and the Heaven Murder Empire had been destroyed for who knew how long, yet she was still alive? Even ordinary Celestials would not be able to live for so long, right? Moreover, Six Desires Celestial's power back then was already incredibly terrifying. Now that she had cultivated for so many years, her power was simply unimaginable. Even if they gathered the power of the 10,000 worlds, they would still lose. Sensing Zhao Fu's shocked expression, the King Sword Spirit's anger decreased slightly, and it gave a trace of a smile as it said, "Now, do you know fear? You cultivate her art and dare to treat me like this? I'm telling you, you're finished." Chapter 2014. The King's Sword Spirit looked quite embarrassed and furious. Firstly, she did not acknowledge Zhao Fu as her owner and greatly disliked Zhao Fu. Secondly, she had not been controlled and had made those indescribable sounds and begged Zhao Fu to take care of her. However, she had not done this willingly and had been forced by the Six Desires demonic chi. Thirdly, she did not like what Zhao Fu had said. Even though what Zhao Fu had said was correct, it was the King of Kings who had helped Six Desires immortal, not the other way around. However, as the King of Kings' only sword, she was definitely the person closest to the King of Kings. Now that she had been wronged, Six Desires immortal would most likely help her. The King's Sword Spirit said angrily, "I didn't acknowledge you as my owner. Moreover, if Six Desires immortal finds out, he'll definitely act because of my owner. In the end, it was you who used the Six Desires demonic chi to deal with me, and you have the cheek to say that?" Zhao Fu looked at her and did not say anything as a massive wave of Six Desires demonic chi flooded into the King's sword. "Bastard!" Seeing the Six Desires demonic chi continuously enter the sword, the King's Sword Spirit once again felt an intense feeling, and she angrily cursed. Zhao Fu said calmly, It was the King of Kings' legacy that chose me, so I'm naturally your owner. You're just an accessory. Otherwise, why would I be able to use the King's sword to control you and not the other way around? The King's sword spirit's face became bright red and she angrily yelled, "If I have the chance, I'll definitely kill you. Also, why did Master's legacy choose a bastard like you?" Boom! Zhao Fu exploded out with a massive aura as countless traces of Six Desires' demonic chi flowed out and entered the King's sword. The King's sword spirit's consciousness fell into darkness and her body twisted in the air, giving off indescribable sounds. The ground was covered with water. The Sin Dragon flirtatiously smiled as she said, "Owner, I'll go up and help you teach her a lesson." And Zhao Fu simply responded. The evil dragon smiled, and came before the King of Kings' sword spirit. He waved his hand and a formless energy tore off the King of Kings' sword spirit's clothes, revealing its body. Then, the evil dragon started to do all kinds of indescribable things. Sky Demon smiled and went up to help, and Corpse Soul also went up curiously and started to teach the King of Kings' sword spirit. Wang Mu blushed, too embarrassed to stay outside and watch. He turned into a beam of light and returned to the sword seal. The youngest was the heaven-sealing sword spirit, and she was only 6 or 7 years old. However, her face was bright red, and she looked curiously and shyly at the people teaching the 10,000 Kings' sword spirit. Zhao Fu felt that it was not suitable for her to see these things, so he waved his hand and kept her in the sword seal. In the end, after 3 hours, the 10,000 Kings' sword spirit gave off a high-pitched cry, and its body hung from the chains like a corpse. Only then did Zhao Fu stop sending in the Six Desires' demonic chi. He looked at the feeble King of Kings' sword spirit and said, "Do you still want to resist me?" The King of Kings' sword spirit panted, and even though her eyes were filled with reluctance, she still said, "I'm willing to submit to you, you're my owner." A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he sent a wave of power into the King of Kings' sword. The King of Kings' sword gave off a faint golden light, and the weakened King of Kings' sword spirit gradually recovered her strength and mind. Zhao Fu loosened the chains binding her, allowing her body to fall to the ground. The King of Kings' sword spirit still looked quite angry as she put on her clothes, and the 3 people who had been teaching her returned to their positions. "Owner, I've made a great contribution." The evil dragon leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace and flirtatiously said. Zhao Fu smiled and hugged her before looking at the King of Kings' sword spirit and asking, "You said that Six Desires Celestial isn't dead and is in another world. What's going on?" The King of Kings' sword spirit still looked quite angry as she replied, "Her cultivation has already reached the limit of this world, so she naturally has to go to a higher-level world to break through." Zhao Fu looked quite confused as he asked, "What's a higher-level world? Isn't the Heaven-Awakened world the highest-level world?" The King of Kings' sword spirit looked at Zhao Fu as if she had not seen this before and said, "Of course not. The Heaven-Awakened world is only a higher-level world and not the ultimate world. The ultimate world is called the Celestial world, and celestial-level existences usually go there. Moreover, there are some worlds between the celestial world and the higher-level worlds. Those worlds are affected by the celestial world, and everything there contains celestial chi. Even a small blade of grass on the side of the road can be called a spirit herb. The creatures that live there are even more terrifying and have monstrous power that can easily destroy worlds. Those worlds are called the half-celestial world, and they are where holy empires are located. Normally, holy empires will occupy a half-celestial world and will not go to a lower-level world. The reason why I said that Six Desires Celestial isn't dead is because she left something for my previous owner. She said that if he needed her help, he could go to the half-celestial world and use that thing to summon her, and she would come down to help him. That thing contains Six Desires Celestial source energy, and it still exists. This means that Six Desires Celestial is definitely still alive, and that thing is sealed within the sword. However, you can't open the King of Kings' sword hoard right now, so you won't be able to obtain that thing. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. Zhao Fu did not know about this before, and now that the King of Kings' sword spirit had said so much information, Zhao Fu was unable to absorb it all. However, he now understood why there were so few celestials in the world. They most likely went to the celestial world to break through to a higher level of cultivation, not to die or go missing. The existence who had created the art of alchemy did not seem to have died, and he was most likely in the celestial world. Moreover, the incredibly mysterious and terrifying Holy Empire's veil had been lifted, allowing Zhao Fu to understand what kind of existence Holy Empires were. They were currently developing in some half-celestial worlds, and even though they were incredibly powerful, now that Zhao Fu knew where they did not feel as mysterious and unpredictable as before. That feeling made holy empires seem even more terrifying, which was why ordinary people respected holy empires so much. Finally, Zhao Fu knew about the King of Kings' sword hoard. After obtaining the King of Kings' legacy, he had obtained a lot of information, including information about the King of Kings' sword hoard. The King of Kings' sword hoard was a massive treasure hoard left behind by the King of Kings, and the treasure hoard was sealed within the King of Kings' sword hoard, so it was called the King of Kings' sword hoard. Chapter 2015. The King of Kings' sword had world-destroying power, and it contained countless treasures, which was why so many people wanted to steal it. With this sword, even though they might not become as monstrous as the King of Kings, they would be able to establish a super-faction. However, even though Zhao Fu had obtained the King of Kings' sword, he had only awakened it. If he wanted to open the King of Kings' sword hoard, he would need to obtain the King of Kings' sword's acknowledgement step by step. At this moment, Zhao Fu did not have the ability to open it. Otherwise, if Zhao Fu had the power to open the King of Kings' sword hoard, the Qin Empire would have grown 1,000 times stronger. After all, that was a hoard left behind by the King of Kings, who was the only person in the world to rule over a large race. That was the entire Outlander race, which took up 1/8 of the Heaven-awakened world. The amount of treasures they had was simply shocking. There were also quite a few heaven-defying treasures among them. There was no need to talk about the others. Take, for example, the item used to summon immortal 6 desires. 6 desires celestial had been one of the most powerful celestials since ancient times, and now that countless years had passed, her strength was simply unimaginable. If she was summoned, even the incredibly terrifying holy empires would have to behave themselves. Zhao Fu only understood about 6 desires celestial, and there were still many things that he did not understand. He continued to ask the King of Kings' sword spirit, "Who are you? Who is the mysterious person who raised and taught the King of Kings?" The King of Kings' sword spirit was still the same as before, "I don't know. Before I had any memories, I was in the sword, and I don't know about that mysterious person either. However, that person's power might be even more terrifying than 6 desires celestial." Hearing this, Zhao Fu was shocked. 6 desires immortal was already an incredibly terrifying existence, yet that mysterious person was even more terrifying than 6 desires immortal. It was impossible to imagine just what level of existence that person was. However, thinking about how that mysterious person was from the origin race and had existed for countless years, he was the one who had taught and raised the King of Kings, and the King of Kings was 6 desires immortal senior. It was understandable that 6 desires immortal was not as powerful as that mysterious person. Zhao Fu asked seriously, "Does the mysterious man still exist?" The King of Kings' sword spirit replied, "I don't know. My last master has been looking for him, but there has been no news." Zhao Fu breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. If such a person still exists, then I really don't know who else can stop him. Following this, Zhao Fu continued to ask, The King of Kings was so powerful, so why did he only live for such a short time? Hearing this, the great King Sword Spirit's expression became somewhat sad. That is his fate, destined to be glorious yet short. Looking at her, Zhao Fu understood how she felt. She had accompanied the King of Kings for 1,500 years, and it was impossible for them not to have deep feelings for each other. However, Zhao Fu felt that it was quite a pity because he was the only person who could have unified the Heaven-Awakened world. If the Heaven-Awakened world had been unified back then and had developed for so many years, it would have been countless times more powerful than it was now, and it would not have had to worry about the alchemy world and outer world invading. However, if he had unified the Heaven-Awakened world, people like Zhao Fu who had just entered the world would not have had a chance. That way, the Qin Empire would not have been established, and Zhao Fu would not have his current strength and status. In fact, Zhao Fu might have died. After all, whenever the Heaven-Awakened world devoured a world, that world would belong to the King of Kings. A small world would not be able to resist the King of Kings, and it could only be conquered. Finally, the King of Kings' fate was just this short and glorious. However, fate was quite strange and could not be understood or searched for. The King of Kings had only talked about his fate and did not mention the true reason for the King of Kings' death. As such, Zhao Fu continued to ask, what was the true reason for the King of Kings' death? The King of Kings' Sword Spirit said somewhat sorrowfully, my master wanted to unify the entire Heaven-Awakened world and end all wars. Even though my master had the ability to do so, he did not have this fate. After all, he was an Outlander and had the Outlander's Supreme Emperor Star, so he could only unify the entire Outlander race. It's said that in order to truly unify the Heaven-Awakened world, one needs the sovereign bloodlines of the 8 races and 8 Supreme Emperor Stars. Only such a person can unify the Heaven-Awakened world. Sovereign bloodlines of the 8 races? 8 Supreme Emperor Stars? Hearing this, Zhao Fu looked quite confused. He had the sovereign bloodlines of the 6 races and 6 Emperor Stars. Did that mean he was the person who unified the Heaven-Awakened world? Was this destiny? The true Son of Heaven? At that moment, the King of Kings' Sword Spirit thought about how Zhao Fu also had the Outlander Emperor Star. Looking at Zhao Fu's expression, it said somewhat disdainfully, even though you have the Outlander Emperor Star and bloodline, you're tens of thousands of times weaker than my master. You'll never become a legendary figure like him. Zhao Fu could not help but lightly laugh. This time, he was not angry. The King of Kings' Sword Spirit felt that Zhao Fu was mocking it and said angrily, bastard, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth. Not only are you not as good as my master in terms of strength and character, but you're also a perverted scoundrel who used such a despicable method to deal with me. It's impossible for someone like you to become someone like my master in the future. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded, not explaining, the King of Kings is indeed a legend, and I greatly admire him. However, I'm your master now, so you must listen to me. Otherwise, you know what the consequences will be. Hearing Zhao Fu's threat, the King of Kings' Sword Spirit thought back to the embarrassing scene from before, and its face became slightly red, and it immediately became more obedient. Zhao Fu smiled as he asked the Sword Spirit, how can I continue to obtain the King of Kings' Sword's acknowledgement? Right now, everything else was not very important. The most important thing was to obtain the King of Kings' Sword's acknowledgement. Only then would he be able to unleash the King of Kings' Sword's power and open the massive King of Kings' Sword hoard. Hearing this, the King of Kings' Sword Spirit felt a bit more confident and said, now that you've obtained my master's legacy, you need to continuously grasp that King of Kings' power. The more powerful your King of Kings' power, the more the King of Kings' Sword will acknowledge you. Most importantly, you need to obtain my acknowledgement, or else you won't be able to open the King of Kings' Sword hoard and receive the King of Kings' Sword's acknowledgement. After all, I'm a sword spirit. Ordinary sword spirits were the souls of swords and could easily control swords. After all, swords were like their bodies. Chapter 2016. Looking at the sword spirit's expression, it seemed that it would be quite difficult. However, Zhao Fu was not too worried, as she would be tamed by him sooner or later. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "I also want to know about the King of Kings. Tell me more about him." Seeing that Zhao Fu was being a bit more courteous, the sword spirit felt quite happy. Moreover, she was talking about the King of Kings' glorious history, so she immediately started to tell Zhao Fu about it. Zhao Fu listened attentively. Since the King of Kings was such a powerful existence, Zhao Fu wanted to know about his past and deeds. A few hours later, after hearing the sword spirit talk about the King of Kings' life, Zhao Fu felt a bit of pity and melancholy. A legendary figure had come to an end, and Zhao Fu wondered what the end of his life would be like. Looking at the sword spirits around him, Zhao Fu said, "You can all come back." Hearing this, the sword spirits turned into rays of sword light and shot into Zhao Fu's sword mark. In the end, only the King of Kings' sword spirit was left standing there, looking quite unhappy. What had happened today had not made her happy, and she remembered that Zhao Fu would be her owner in the future. Zhao Fu did not mind and waved the King of Kings' sword, sending the King of Kings' sword spirit into it. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to where Moon God Sprout and the others had been waiting for Zhao Fu. Seeing that Zhao Fu had been gone for so long, Moon God Sprout asked caringly, "What is it? You've been gone for so long, it's getting dark." Zhao Fu did not tell Moon God Sprout about this and smiled as he said, "It's nothing. Let's continue on our way." Seeing how happy Zhao Fu was, everyone felt that what had just happened was not a bad thing, so they did not mind and followed Zhao Fu into the sky. A while later, they came to another faction and found an ordinary inn. Because the others had shown their faces to the gods, in order to avoid being found, everyone was now wearing a cloak to hide their faces and bodies. Zhao Fu had the Luo family's 3 brothers prepare 2 carriages, while everyone else stayed in the room and cleaned up. Because they had fled in such a hurry, everyone's hair and clothes were a bit messy. The 3 Luo brothers went out to buy 2 carriages. Zhao Fu brought them to the hall on the first floor and ordered some good food and wine. Moon God Sprout shyly sat beside Zhao Fu, leaning against Zhao Fu. Shen Xiaoi hugged Moon God Sprout with jealousy, not wanting her big sister to be taken advantage of by Zhao Fu. Yi Lan she was a little envious, but the others were more normal. Boom! A powerful aura swept by. The people in the inn broke out in a cold sweat and started chatting with each other. "What's going on? Why are there so many terrifying people? Every time I pass by, I break out in a cold sweat. This has never happened before. Don't you know? Something big happened in the Battle Godland, and many experts swarmed over because of this. Otherwise, why would they pass by here? AI. Then tell me what happened. Why did so many experts flock here? Something shocking must have happened, right?" "I think so too, but I don't know the specifics. It seems to have something to do with the King of Kings' sword." "What? The King of Kings' sword? That's the Outlander race's supreme god weapon. Why did it come to our god realm?" "I'm not too sure either, but many experts went there and did not obtain anything, so they've started to return." "You're making me feel like I'm in suspense. Just what's going on? How is it related to the King of Kings' sword?" "I really don't know. This kind of thing is something that small people like us should know. I only know how much I know." What they did not know was that the cause of all of this was on the table next to them. Hearing their words, Zhao Fu felt quite concerned. It seemed that this place was not very safe, and it would be best to travel through the night and leave this place as soon as possible. After eating, the Luo family's 3 brothers prepared 2 carriages, and they traveled through the night to another place. On the way, Zhao Fu sat in the carriage, and took out the King of Kings' sword, and started to strengthen the King of Kings' legacy's power. Before, Zhao Fu had only obtained a preliminary portion of the legacy, and he had not fully grasped that power yet. He had not had time to deal with it, and now, he could travel while absorbing and refining that King of Kings' legacy's power. The King of Kings' sword gave off a faint golden light and floated in the air, and massive waves of power continuously entered Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu sat cross-legged on the carriage, and absorbed that wave of power. Everyone else sat by the side and made some space so that they would not disturb Zhao Fu. This king's power was definitely an extremely powerful power, and Zhao Fu could feel that this power was causing his constitution to go through another round of evolution. Now, Zhao Fu's bloodline was a divine bloodline, and ordinary powers would not be able to affect him much. However, King of Kings' legacy's power could greatly affect him. Moreover, this King of Kings' power seemed to be the power of many different races fused together. Zhao Fu had not obtained the Outlander race's 34 races bloodlines and power, but he had fused them together, and he felt that it was that kind of power. However, there was a massive difference between this power and King of Kings' legacy. This King of Kings' legacy seemed to have fused the power of over 10,000 races, which was why it was so terrifying. This was true King of Kings' legacy, a power that reigned above countless Outlander races. Zhao Fu's fusion of 34 races simply could not compare at all. If he wanted to unleash the King of Kings' sword's power, he had to use King of Kings' legacy's power. As such, the most important thing for Zhao Fu was to grasp King of Kings' legacy's power, or else he would not be able to use the King of Kings' sword. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out. This explosion did not come from Zhao Fu but from Mu Xiang, who was bitterly cultivating next to him. Ever since Zhao Fu had given her the lunar divinity, Mu Xiang had been using all of her time to cultivate and did not even have time to sleep. Now Mu Xiang had finally started to change. Mu Xiang's body gave off an intense gray light as heaven and earth power continuously gathered and entered her body. Waves of powerful godly spirit aura spread out from her body. The Luo family's brothers outside sensed this aura and stopped their carriages. Zhao Fu stopped absorbing King of Kings' legacy's power, and had the others leave first so that they would not disturb Mu Xiang. This was the most important moment for Mu Xiang. Hearing this, everyone else got off the carriages and waited by the side. Boom! Chapter 2017. Mu Xiang's body continuously absorbed heaven and earth power, and an ancient yin qi started to gush out of Mu Xiang's body. A figure appeared in the sky. It was Mu Xiang's figure. This figure was not very big, only 100 meters tall, and its appearance were the same as Mu Xiang's. The surrounding heaven and earth power continuously flowed into that figure, and a godly might spread out. Zhao Fu looked at Mu Xiang and gave a trace of a smile. This was the godly figure that Mu Xiang had condensed herself. Even though it was not very big and its power could not compare to Zhao Fu's, it had already fulfilled Zhao Fu's requirements for awakening the 10-yin immortal body. Following this, the figure disappeared, the various abnormal signs disappeared, and the surroundings became peaceful again. Within the carriage, Mu Xiang opened her eyes, and her eyes flashed with a divine light. Mu Xiang's little brother happily came in from outside and was the first to leap into Mu Xiang's embrace as he said excitedly, "Big sister, you've also become a godly spirit. In the future, we won't have to worry anymore." Now that she had become a true godly spirit, Mu Xiang's face brimmed with a beautiful smile as she hugged her little brother and said, In the future, Big Sister will protect you. Also, this is all thanks to Lord's help. Without Lord, we would have died long ago." Mu Xiao seriously nodded, indicating that she understood. Mu Xiang had a smile on her face as she turned to look at Zhao Fu within the carriage and called out gratefully and happily, "Lord." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded, "Come here." Let me see the power within you. Mu Xiang let go of her little brother and shyly came in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu grabbed her hand and a formless power flowed into Mu Xiang's body. Everything was as Zhao Fu had expected. Even though Mu Xiang's extreme Yin God power was not very strong, it had fulfilled the requirements. Now, she only lacked physical power and profound Yin power. Everyone continued on their way. Not long after, everyone arrived at a city. Zhao Fu did not intend to stay here for long and wanted to continue on his way, but he heard a piece of news. 3 divine spirit factions were attacking a faction, and that faction's name was the Profound Negative God. Hearing this name, Zhao Fu lost his composure. This was because profound Yin energy was one of the 10 types of Yin energy, and that faction had called it Profound Yin God. The godly spirit there definitely had profound Yin energy, and as long as he collected profound Yin energy, he would only be missing one type of Yin energy. Zhao Fu asked for the location and information, then had everyone wait here. Bitch. You're definitely going to lose, hee. A young woman in a red dress with a bewitching figure looked at a woman in robes with a trace of venom in her eyes. The robed woman had a slim figure and a pretty face. She had long, azure hair and a pair of azure eyes, and she gave off a godly spirit aura that was not weak at all. Right now, blood was flowing out of the corner of her mouth. She was surrounded by 3 people. Other than the woman in the red dress, there was also an ordinary-looking youth and an ugly brawny man. Apart from this battlefield, there were also gods fighting in several other places. However, it was clear that the 3 factions had the advantage. They had the advantage in numbers and strength, making it difficult for the other faction to resist. The robed woman said furiously, "If it wasn't for the fact that you allied with those 2 factions, do you think I would be afraid of you?" The woman in the red dress savagely laughed as she said, "If you have the ability, go ally with other factions. Since you don't have the ability, don't blame me for destroying your profound Yin God. Also, bitch, I'm going to keep you alive and let you die in humiliation. Otherwise, I won't be able to satisfy my hatred for so many years." The ordinary-looking youth looked at the profound Yin God and gave an evil smile as he said, "You promised us that as long as we helped you destroy the profound Yin God, we would play with the 2 of you however we wanted." The ugly brawny man loudly laughed as he said, "We don't want to care about the matters between you women. Hurry up and end this so we can have some fun with the 2 of you. I can't wait anymore." The robed woman looked at the woman in the red dress condescendingly as she said, "Oh? Who's the bitch here? You actually used your own body as the price. I feel bad for your dead man." The woman in the red dress looked furious as she yelled, "This is all your fault. Just who killed my man?" The woman in the red dress coldly harumphed, "You asked for it. It was you who wanted to invade our faction. Do you think we'll retaliate?" The woman in the red dress looked furious as she said to the 2 men next to her, "Don't listen to her nonsense. As long as you help me capture her, I'll play with you for the entire day." The youth and brawny man laughed and immediately attacked the woman in the red dress. Boom! The big man held a massive hammer and vigorously swung it, sending out a powerful force and ferocious wind towards the long-robed woman. The woman in the red dress dodged to the side, avoiding this attack. The youth held a spear and rushed in front of the woman in the red dress. He vigorously swung the spear, giving off a destructive power as he attacked the woman in the red dress. The woman in the red dress was unable to dodge and could only use her sword to block. Boom! The woman in the red dress gave off a powerful aura as she appeared, holding a blood-red saber with both hands. The saber gave off an intense saber light as she slashed towards the woman in the red dress. The woman's heart tightened and she quickly unleashed a defensive barrier to block. Bang! The saber light slammed against the defensive barrier, resulting in a massive explosion. The defensive barrier shattered and the woman in the red dress was sent flying back, coughing up a large mouthful of blood. "Xian Qing!" A weak-looking youth called out worriedly. He had wanted to rush over but was stopped by another godly spirit. The woman in the red dress turned to look at the weak-looking youth and wildly laughed as she said, "It seems that your relationship with him has been quite good recently. I'll show you how I'll kill him and make you feel my pain." The woman in the red dress expression was quite unsightly because she was not a match for the three of them. In the end, she would be captured and her faction would be destroyed by the three factions. She had a good impression of the weak-looking youth, and did not want to drag him in. Moreover, she did not want her body to be ravaged by these two scum. The most important thing right now is what to do. Boom! A massive aura suddenly descended, and a terrifying aura flooded out as a formless might ferociously press down. Sensing this terrifying aura, the two sides immediately fell silent and looked up at the sky in terror. A cloaked figure giving off a mysterious aura appeared in the sky. His gaze was cold as he looked down at the godly spirits below, giving off a high and mighty feeling. Chapter 2018. The godly spirits who were fighting stopped and looked at Zhao Fu nervously. They could sense the terrifying aura coming from Zhao Fu's body and understood that Zhao Fu was incredibly powerful and that they were not a match for him. They did not know why such a powerful person had suddenly appeared here. Zhao Fu looked around and found 4 people giving off black Yin god power. In the end, Zhao Fu's gaze fell on the long-robed woman because she gave off the strongest black Yin god power. Seeing Zhao Fu look at her, the long-robed woman felt quite startled. She did not seem to have any connection with such an expert. She asked respectfully, "Sir, what business do you have with me?" Zhao Fu's lips curved into a trace of a smile as he said in a domineering tone that could not be rejected, "You're mine now, come with me." The long-robed woman felt quite furious. This was simply too domineering without even asking for her opinion. Who was his thing? The others felt quite displeased, especially the weak-looking young man and the red-dressed woman. The long-robed woman was someone that the weak-looking young man liked, so of course he would not allow others to take her away. Moreover, he had even treated her like an object, making him feel quite angry. He said loudly, "I don't agree. What right do you have to take away my beloved?" The red-dressed woman also looked quite furious as she said, "Sir, this is a private matter, please don't interfere." "This is our private matter, please do not interfere. I must kill this woman." The long-robed woman had killed her man, so she felt immense hatred towards her and wanted to kill her at all costs. As such, no matter how powerful Zhao Fu was, she still dared to speak. As for the other 2 people, they obediently retreated to the side as if this matter had nothing to do with them. With Zhao Fu's terrifying power, even though they were quite lustful, they did not want to get involved or they would lose their lives. Hearing their words, Zhao Fu's gaze became slightly cold and his body disappeared, reappearing in front of the weak-looking young man as he said condescendingly, "I'll tell you why." Boom! Zhao Fu gripped his fist and vigorously punched out, sending out terrifying power towards the weak-looking young man. The weak-looking young man was greatly startled and quickly unleashed a defensive barrier. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the defensive barrier was shattered by a single punch. The punch landed on the weak-looking young man's chest, causing him to fly back and cough up a large mouthful of blood. Many of his ribs had been broken, and his body powerlessly fell to the ground. In the next second, Zhao Fu disappeared on the spot and reappeared in front of the young woman in the red dress. The young woman in the red dress knew that Zhao Fu was going to attack her, so she gripped her saber with both hands and sent all of her power into it. The saber gave off an intense saber light, and when Zhao Fu appeared in front of her, she vigorously slashed towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu waved his hand disdainfully, and a powerful force sent the young woman's saber flying. The young woman in the red dress was stunned. How could the person in front of her be so terrifying? Her full power attack had been interrupted just like that. Bang! Zhao Fu once again punched the young woman in the red dress's chest, sending her flying back. She coughed up a large mouthful of blood and her face became pale. She stumbled and almost fell from the sky. The young woman in the red dress felt quite startled. She had underestimated how terrifying Zhao Fu was. He had almost killed 2 godly spirits with just 2 casual punches. The young man and the big man felt quite relieved. This person was indeed terrifying. Luckily, they had not attacked just then, or else they would have been doomed. The other godly spirits looked quite fearful. Seeing the godly spirits that they believed in being half crippled by a single punch, the soldiers below felt quite afraid. Zhao Fu turned to look at the young woman in the red dress and said coldly, "Are you going to leave with me, or am I going to take you away by force?" After seeing Zhao Fu's power, the young woman in the red dress felt quite afraid. However, she hesitated to leave with Zhao Fu. "Kill him!" The young man who had fallen to the ground had a pale face and a blood-red chest, and he loudly ordered the soldiers around him. Swish, 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 the soldiers obeyed the order and started to attack Zhao Fu, shooting out arrows. The young woman in the red dress also gave the order for the soldiers to attack, and arrows containing immense power shot towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu gave a condescending smile and stretched out a hand, causing a massive wave of power to spread out. The arrows seemed to be locked down by a formless energy and stopped in the air. There were so many of them that it was impossible to count them clearly. Zhao Fu raised his hand, and the countless arrows that had been locked in place changed their direction. Seeing this, the generals were greatly startled and yelled for the soldiers to quickly defend. Chi, however, it was already too late. Arrows containing even more powerful force shot out, forming a massive arrow aura that seemed to be able to pierce through everything as they descended. The soldiers' bodies were pierced through by the arrows without any obstruction at all. Blood flew everywhere and cries continuously sounded out. It was unknown just how many soldiers had died, and the stench of blood spread out. From this, it could be seen that it was impossible for ordinary soldiers to defeat this monstrous existence. Zhao Fu looked at the frail young man with a trace of killing intent. Clang, 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 chains shot out from the air, binding the frail young man and the young woman in the red dress. The chains started to tighten, making their bodies feel as if they were going to split apart. Moreover, blood-red arcs of lightning also hit their bodies. Arg, the 2 of them howled as their bodies continuously twisted and struggled, looking as if they were going to die. None of the godly spirits present dared to stop them and could only watch on. The soldiers were the same, looking terrified. "Enough. I'll go with you." Seeing how pained the frail young man was, the woman in the red dress felt quite bad. She understood that she would not be able to resist Zhao Fu today, so she could only leave with him. A smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he stopped the blood-red lightning and released the chains. The woman in the red dress said, "I can go with you, but you have to promise me one thing." Zhao Fu smiled as he asked, "What is it?" The woman in the red dress said coldly, "I want you to kill all of the godly spirits here apart from the profound Yin God." Now that she was going to leave with Zhao Fu, the profound Yin God might still be destroyed by the 3 factions in the future. As such, she wanted to use this opportunity to destroy the 3 factions and make the profound Yin God even more powerful. Hearing the woman in the red dress's words, the other godly spirits hurriedly begged, "Sir, please don't kill us. We're willing to do anything you want, and we definitely won't betray you. We also swear not to attack the profound Yin God. If you don't believe us, you can sign an eternal contract." Zhao Fu thought about it and nodded before looking at the woman in the red dress and asking, "They can sign an eternal contract with your faction. What do you think?" Chapter 2019. The long-robed woman pointed at the woman in the red dress and said, "I have a small request. Take her with you and make her my female attendant." The woman in the red dress looked furious as she said, "Wishful thinking, you slut. Do you think I'll be your female attendant? I'd rather die." Boom. A powerful aura exploded out as the woman in the red dress's body gave off an intense light. She was going to self-destruct her godhood. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and grabbed at the chains around the woman in red, causing them to give off a powerful sealing power that locked down her power. The light around the woman in red's body disappeared, and she seemed to be completely powerless. The woman in the red dress's expression was unsightly and furious. She could imagine what would happen to her if she fell into the long-robed woman's hands. Zhao Fu frowned and looked at the long-robed woman as he said, "She can come with you as your female attendant, but you can't make any more requests or else I'll have to take you away by force." The long-robed woman had made many requests, making Zhao Fu feel quite displeased. The long-robed woman gave a trace of a smile and nodded. She did not have any other requests. It was just these two. Following this, the godly spirit on the long-robed woman's side signed a contract with the godly spirits of the other three sides, stating that they would never attack each other again. Zhao Fu also set up the 6 desires demonic qi within the woman in the red dress and the long-robed woman's bodies, making them under Zhao Fu's control. The woman in the red dress was also controlled by the long-robed woman because she was now her female attendant, so the long-robed woman could do whatever she wanted to her. Finally, the long-robed woman brought the woman in the red dress to the pale-faced, weak-looking young man who needed someone to support him. The woman in the red dress looked quite resentful. Her ability to speak had been sealed by the long-robed woman, and she looked at the two of them with a murderous gaze. Seeing this, the woman in the red dress gave a trace of a slight smile as she said, "Luckily nothing happened between us. Let's end things here. I'll leave with him and might never come back. I'll leave the faction to you." The weak-looking young man looked quite furious as he said, "If you go with that bastard, I'll definitely kill him." The long-robed woman said with a smile, "You're not a match for him. An existence like him isn't someone that people like us can fight against. It's best that you don't say such things. Otherwise, if he wants to kill you, I won't be able to do anything." The frail young man clenched his fists tightly, and his nails pierced into his palms. He hated that his nails did not have the strength to protect the woman he loved. Moreover, that person did not look like a good person at a glance. To think that he would treat the woman he loved as an object. Moreover, when he was injecting the restriction, the long-robed woman's face had turned red. It must have been something perverted. He really wanted to kill him and tear him to pieces, but he didn't have the strength to do so. This was a world where the strong were respected. The long-robed woman told her to take care of herself before walking toward Zhao Fu with the red-dressed young woman. The frail young man could only watch as the long-robed woman left. Even if he tried to urge her to stay, it was useless. His heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife, and he was in incomparable pain. The woman in a long robe was called Xianqing, and the young woman in a red dress was called Luanhua. In the end, Zhao Fu returned to the city, and led everyone on their way. They passed by several places but didn't find anything. Now, they were only missing 1 out of the 10 Yin energies, which would help the moon god Sprout awaken the 10 Yin immortal body. However, that Yin energy was incredibly rare, and they tried to ask around for information about it, but they didn't find anything. Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel quite anxious because he was just missing one. They came to another faction, and Zhao Fu once again gathered information, but he still didn't find anything. However, it wasn't like they didn't find anything. Zhao Fu found some information about the Otherworld Golden Flower. The Otherworld Golden Flower was one of the 8 Wonders flowers, but it was the rarest one. Almost no one had seen it before, so most people thought that there were only the 7 Wonders flowers. It was said that the Otherworld Golden Flower had the power to turn everything into gold. The information that Zhao Fu found out was that every once in a while, a mirage would appear. The mirage was a world made of gold. The mountains, the ground, the plants, and the flowers were all made of gold. It was possible that there was a very ancient Otherworld Golden Flower there, which was why the entire world had been turned into gold. It was a pity that it was just a mirage, and it was an illusory scene. Where was the real land of gold? Ordinary people all knew about this, and they were all talking about it. After all, gold was money to ordinary people. Facing a world where money was everywhere and could not be used up, ordinary people were naturally very excited. Ordinary people wanted to go there even in their dreams. Zhao Fu cared about this information quite a bit. After all, the otherworld golden flower was the rarest of the 8 wonders flowers, and it was incredibly difficult to find one. The flower fairy needed one of the 8 wonders flowers to recover her power. The flower fairy had once been a celestial existence, and recovering her power was incredibly important to Qin. As such, Zhao Fu stayed behind to see if he could obtain an otherworld golden flower. Zhao Fu started to wait there, but he wasn't sure when the mirage would appear. Sometimes it would appear for a few days, and sometimes it would appear for half a month. Because there was nothing for him to do, Zhao Fu wasn't in a hurry. He stayed here and continued to refine the 10,000 kings' power. Zhao Fu didn't restrict the others' freedom, and they could play around in the city. Everyone happily went to the street. Traveling for a few days was quite boring, and ordinary people couldn't take it. Shen Xiaoyi pulled Moon God Sprout's hand and happily ran around. Mu Xiang was also pulled out by her little brother. Before, Mu Xiang had spent all of her time cultivating and hadn't had any time to play around. Her little brother had obediently accompanied her, and now that Mu Xiang had condensed her godhood, she didn't need to continue cultivating. As such, her little brother dragged her out to have some fun and buy some good food. In the end, only Yi Lanqi accompanied Zhao Fu in a room in the tavern. Zhao Fu was quite surprised and smiled as he said, "Everyone else has gone out to play. Why aren't you going out with your family?" Yi Lanqi shook her head and said, "I don't want to play, I just want to accompany Sir." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and did not mind. He took out the King of Kings' sword, and a formless energy raised the King of Kings' sword, giving off waves of golden light as King of Kings' power continuously entered Zhao Fu's body. Right now, Zhao Fu had only grasped a small portion of it and could not truly grasp it. As such, he could not use the King of Kings' sword to its fullest. King of Kings' power was an extremely high-grade power, and it was quite difficult to grasp. Moreover, if he could grasp it, he would be able to suppress godly spirits and countless outlander clans. Soon, 4 days passed. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.